Naruto x Lotm, A Fool's Errand. Author. Hoin_Kayoma. Chapter 41-60. If jutsus could be stored in storage seals, I'm sure more people would have carried around such scrolls. Let's try by storing a candle on fire first. Tachibana quickly brought out a candle that he'd bought to perform the messenger summoning ritual. He lit it up with the help of his spirituality and placed it onto the storage scroll. Pouring his chakra into the scroll, Tachibana watched as the entire candle was engulfed in a balloon of his chakra before it suddenly vanished from in front of him and ended up becoming a part of the seal he'd made. Is there anything different about the sea? Ouch. God damn, this thing's hot. Tachibana fluttered his hand before stuffing the finger that had gotten burnt into his mouth to cool it down. He looked at the paper and to his surprise it suddenly caught fire and burnt away. Midway through, the damaged seal finally released liquid wax with a small wick that was still on fire. So it failed, huh? You can't store things with fire into the scroll. Or does it apply to all elements? Tachibana quickly drew up a new sealing scroll which he placed on the floor before bringing a glass of water and placing it on top of it. He sealed it just like he sealed the candle flame and waited for something to happen. Not even a few seconds later, the paper became soggy and the ink he used to make the seal started getting distorted before the glass with water was expelled out of the seal. So you can only seal solid, dry, not hot things into a storage scroll. Is that why all of the food shinobis carry to a mission is just a dry ration bar? And not tasty stuff like a bowl of ramen? Tachibana performed several other tests well into the night and learnt several things about the storage seal. Whatever I store into the storage seal is affected by time in the same way keeping it outside affects it. I can store chakra into the storage seal, but I don't have a way to currently use the chakra after unsealing the seal. As soon as I unseal the seal, the chakra just dissipates into the air and becomes unusable. What if I use a different material that can't be affected by the element? For his final test, Tachibana carved the storage seal onto a wooden board which he used to store a glass of water. Unsurprisingly, the wooden seal stored the glass of water for longer, but even it slowly became wet since the water stored inside was slowly leaking into the wooden seal. So as long as I have the right materials, I can seal anything into a storage seal. Didn't Orochimaru seal his soul or a part of it using the curse seal which could interact with nature chakra? Does that mean the human body is the best material for a seal and can store anything? Is that why tailed beasts can be sealed into it? Getting a slightly crazy idea, Tachibana performed one more experiment. After getting out a needle, he began to scratch his skin lightly so that he could draw the storage seal on his arm. Once done, Tachibana tried to pour his chakra into the seal to store a glass of water. The glass of water vanished and Tachibana waited for something to happen as he observed his hand while being still. Nothing's happening. Tachibana thought curiously as he waited for his skin to become wet, but nothing happened. He then proceeded to poke it a few times. Seriously. It's so easy. Why don't more people? Muffled scream. Tachibana's eyes suddenly went wide as he screamed because of the terrible pain from his arm. But stuffing a cloth into his mouth, he quickly bit on it and suppressed his screams. Thinking quickly, he dragged the seal he'd etched onto his upper arm to the tips of his finger, using his abilities as a magician to transfer damage. As soon as the seal deformed and changed shape because of this, the glass of water was expelled out of the seal, except this time the glass had shattered and several pieces had blood dripping off them. The heck is this? Tachibana cursed as he looked at the bloody glass pieces. He then inspected the wound that had been transferred to his finger from his arm and saw how many cuts it had. The glass broke in my body. But why didn't it break in the wooden board seal or the paper seal? Did it break because I poked it or something? Tachibana thought for a while but didn't find a clear explanation, so he cleaned up everything for now and thought about studying more of Mito's books first to understand why he was wrong. I shouldn't try experimenting with sealing things into my body without learning more about sealing first. There's probably more to it than what Mito wrote in the beginner book, which is probably why all the other shinobi villages don't have perfect seals for their jinchurikis. Since I remember Gaara being unable to sleep because Shukaku kept trying to influence him to murder or something because of the weak seal. Tachibana slept for a few hours before he was forced to wake up because of a loud knock on his door. Bang asterisk bang asterisk bang. The heck is going on? Is someone attacking the village or something? Why are they knocking on my door like it's the end of the world? Tachibana-kun, let's go to the theater. I have tickets for all of us for Princess Gale's new movie. Naruto shouted as I rolled out of my bed and crawled to the door. I opened the lock with a click before I tried looking around with my eyes that were half open. The heck Naruto, what are you doing here so early in the morning? Don't we meet at 10? Why are you here at 6? Naruto laughed shyly as he showed me the tickets he was holding. I got all of us tickets to the latest Princess Gale movie. Since we haven't done something to relax with each other, I thought it'd be nice if we watched a movie. I frowned before I spoke. You wanted to take Haruno-san out on a date and you ended up thinking it'd be easier to ask her if we all went together, didn't you? Naruto fidgeted with his fingers before asking with a beaming smile that did its best to hide his blush. Ah, are you coming or not? Sai, give me a few minute wait. When's the show in the first place? It's at 7. Don't tell me you got an early ticket so you could spend the rest of the day with her too, I commented with an even deeper frown. Ha 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 ha, Tachibana-kun, you are good at reading minds. I shook my head before going inside to take a quick shower. After which I had breakfast along with Naruto since he hadn't eaten anything, and then we left to gather the others for the day. If we get Sasuke first, I'm sure Sakura will follow. Why? What's so good about him? I didn't want to break Naruto's heart, so I stayed silent as we traversed the village until we reached the Uchiha compound gates, where we soon found Sasuke out on his morning jog. Sasuke, let's go, Naruto shouted as soon as he saw him. Sasuke looked at Naruto with annoyance before turning to me to understand why he was so excited. Naruto bought tickets for the new Princess Gale movie for all of us. He wants us to go for a team bonding exercise. I can't come. I'm training. Sasuke bluntly refused. But Naruto wasn't one to quietly accept a rejection when he'd planned to spend the day with Sakura, so he quickly alleviated Sasuke's worries. I know how you can train while watching the movie. We can stand on the ceiling and watch the movie upside down. This will help us get used to fighting like that too. Sasuke looked unconvinced, but I added, he won't give up. While giving him a, you know how he is, sort of look. Sasuke finally relented under Naruto's constant peer pressure, and after a few minutes which he used to take a short shower and change his clothes, Sasuke was finally ready to leave with Naruto. Their last stop was Sakura's home, but they didn't have to wait long. As soon as Sakura's mom said, "Sakura, your teammates are here to pick you up." Sakura peeked out of the window, and when she saw Sasuke, she cleaned herself up rather quickly before presenting herself like a lovebird. Tachibana saw Naruto's disappointed expression but couldn't understand how to help his teammate overcome his heart blindness. I'm sure he'll realize there are other people on his own after a while. Didn't it end well for him with Hinata? Maybe I should try playing Cupid for those two. Don't I have anything else to do? Midway through the movie, Team 7 was kicked out of the theater because Naruto was too loud and disturbing the other people watching the movie. Too bad there's no smartphone in this world yet. Maybe I could search for whoever's making a smartphone in this world and invest in them to earn money. I should get a newspaper subscription to catch the latest news. So they were hanging around behind the theater in an abandoned lot where the theater's junk was thrown out. Tisk. I skipped training for this, Sasuke complained as he looked at Naruto, who was observing the poster of the picture Princess Gale movie hanging between two bamboo poles with adoration. Wasn't Princess Gale so cool? She stood up against injustice. She said, the fight isn't over until light wins against the darkness. I want a Princess Gale too. Sakura looked at Naruto with a deadpan expression while Sasuke felt like throwing shuriken at him. Tachibana on the side yawned until the four of them suddenly heard the sound of a horse rushing in their direction. Huh. Naruto stood up, looking away from the Princess Gale poster as he tried to track the direction from which the sound was coming. Suddenly a white horse jumped through the poster, over the wooden wall as it landed right in the lot the four genin were waiting at. Everyone quickly realized the woman sitting on top of the horse was the same as the one in the poster she had just torn through. It was Princess Gale. The white horse landed on the ground before it rushed away with the woman on its back. The door of the fence suddenly opened, slamming back Naruto and Sakura into the dirt, and out poured a horde of horsemen wearing black-colored samurai armor as they swarmed behind the woman who just passed by on the white horse. The dust settled with Naruto being the first to ask, "Was that Princess Gale?" As his eyes cleared he rushed after the horses. Sakura and Sasuke followed after him. Naruto quickly used chakra to stick to the walls of various houses and climbed to the rooftop to shadow the samurai following Princess Gale. Princess Gale herself pulled off a large banner from a roadside stall and tossed it at the samurai chasing her, causing them to slow down before she changed directions and quickly escaped through a narrow alley. Naruto jumped down and landed on the leader of the samurai group who was still chasing Princess Gale and kicked him along with a few of his subordinates off their horses. Sakura used genjutsu to misguide a few of the samurai into running their horses into a wall, while Sasuke cast a net on the samurai and caused the feet of their horses to become entangled, making them crash into each other and fall down. When all the samurai had fallen down and were groaning loudly, Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura came together with a slight confusion on their faces. "Where's Tachibana-kun? Did anyone see him? He wasn't in the lot when we started chasing the samurai," Sasuke said based on what he remembered since he was the last to leave. "He wasn't even on the roof." Naruto shook his head. "Did he get kidnapped?" Sakura asked. Meanwhile, Tachibana was holding onto Princess Gale for dear life as the mad woman seemed to be hell-bent on speeding through the streets of Konoha to escape her imaginary pursuers. "Lady, stop, please. No one is after you," Tachibana shouted as Princess Gale's hair flew into his mouth. "Get your hand off me, you filthy kid. Or I'll stab your eyes out. Woman, please understand, I have no interest in your chopping board. I'm going to fall if I don't hold something. And your valleys aren't helping. Chop valley. You vile brat." Princess Gale pulled on the reins of her horse as it slowed down by the side of a small pond and Tachibana finally let go. Having his behind get bumped on the running horse's bony back was not on Tachibana's bucket list when he'd gone out with Naruto this morning. As Tachibana rubbed his back, Princess Gale walked over to him and kicked him in the shin. Tachibana looked at her and only smiled before the woman fell to the ground holding her legs as if she'd kicked steel. "What are those legs made of?" "Iron," the woman complained as she looked at her dainty feet. "No, I just wear protection," Tachibana explained as he pulled up his pants to show the iron plates that were stuck to its underside. "I haven't seen a kid ruder than you. And I have seen a 30-year-old flatter than you. T30. I'm still in my 20s. Gale shouted as she began hitting Tachibana on his head, ignoring her paining feet. "As if. I'm sure all that's just makeup, isn't it? If you really are in your 20s, wipe it off with the water in the lake and I'll believe you." Gale frowned at Tachibana before walking over to the pond and dipping her face into it. "See, I'm young. No wrinkles. None at all." Tachibana tried biting his tongue to suppress himself, but he couldn't and fell down to the ground laughing while clutching his stomach. "Oh my god, she believed me. Huh, what's wrong? Did something get on my face?" Princess Gale asked with an annoyed expression. Tachibana calmed himself for a few seconds before explaining, "It's a pond in a village, you silly girl. The livestock take a bath in it. And probably do much mo." Before Tachibana could finish his sentence, Princess Gale was bending over, spitting rainbows into the pond. Only after a few minutes did Tachibana and Princess Gale calm down as they sat by the edge of the pond. "What's your name, by the way? I can't keep calling you Princess Gale," Tachibana said politely to kick up a conversation. The woman gave him a sharp look before she said, "Shouldn't you introduce yourself first?" "Sorry, my bad," Tachibana said, causing her eyebrows to shoot up. She hadn't expected the rude boy to suddenly have manners. "My name's Tachibana Ray. I'm a genin in the Leaf Village." Princess Gale looked at the pond and admired the flowers floating in it for a few seconds before she spoke softly, Yukie Fujika's. Fujika's-san then, why were you running away from your bodyguards? Nothing you should concern yourself with. I see. Tachibana nodded. He then looked at Fujika's with a smile before speaking, if you want I could escort you back, but since you want to stay here, good luck. My teammates are probably worried about me so I have to go back. Fujika's nodded before she went back to listlessly staring at the water in the pond. Tachibana walked back to the theater lot and became puzzled. Where did they go? Did they get lost or something? Did they go back home? Tachibana spoke casually until a sharp vision played in his mind. A hand dropped on his neck to knock him out. Tachibana reacted instantly, elbowing behind himself as he ducked under to move out of range of the person standing behind him. Except he couldn't. To his surprise, someone caught his collar and pulled him back while simultaneously grabbing his elbow. Oh, it's you, Yamato-sensei. Tachibana casually commented as he was turned around. Be careful of where you aim your elbow next time, you are small. Tachibana was confused for a second until he looked down. Sorry sensei, didn't mean it. Yeah, fine, everyone's waiting for you. Oh, I thought they had gone home. Isn't it our day off today? Why do we have to gather again? Life is full of surprises, and today happens to be a surprise mission day. Tachibana deadpanned but hung from his collar like a cat. He could do nothing as he was taken away by Yamato, who rushed around the village before arriving at what looked like a studio. Where are we? An acting studio. Our clients are waiting here. We have a boat to catch soon and you're late. What about mission supplies? I'll give you time to pack them in a few minutes, right now we need to hear them out. Sure. Yamato placed me down and Tachibana followed behind him enthusiastically. The set was currently taking a break, and the actors and the director were all sipping on tea, but the film crew was still buzzing around the set, fixing what needed fixing and replacing what needed to be replaced for the next scene. Arriving by Team 7's side, Tachibana asked Sakura to scoot over before sitting by her side as he joined them all in looking at the set. That was when Yamato spoke to the director. Are we going to the land of snow for shooting the next scene? Yes, Yamato-san, there is a special glacier there that is called the Spring Valley. It is said to host a special rainbow in a week that will only be visible for 4 to 5 hours. We aim to shoot in the Spring Valley, a special scene for the sequel of the movie Princess Gale. I understand. Yamato nodded, but Tachibana had a question. Why did Fujika's-san run away then? The director stayed silent as he looked at another person standing beside him to take over. Greetings, I'm Sandei Osama. I'm Fujika's-san's agent. She's always been like this, a little difficult to get along with. But I promise there will be no trouble while she's on camera. She loves being an actress, you see. Tachibana nodded but felt that something was missing. The other genin felt so too, but they didn't raise any questions seeing Yamato hadn't spoken anything to probe about it. The director took over after that. I don't mind her personal problems, everyone's got those. As long as she gives her all behind the camera, there's not much for me to be dissatisfied with. That girl, she's a born actress. All the other actors seemed to agree with the director and they all nodded until the director's assistant spoke up. We're leaving soon, so if you could find her, it'd help a lot. Want me to go and fetch her? Tachibana proposed since he'd been the last to see her. Yamato quickly nodded and spoke softly, lead the team to her last known location, then you guys can bring her back to the village exit. Carts are waiting there for us to leave. Alright. Tachibana nodded and left the studio along with Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura. The heck, do you think I can get an autograph from her? Naruto asked with a dreamy expression. The four of them quickly reached the pond where Tachibana had left her off, and to no one's surprise Yukie Fujika's wasn't there. The team split off to find leads on where she'd gone since her horse was still there, meaning someone must have seen her walk elsewhere, and Sakura pulled through after asking a couple of kids who seemed to be disappointed they didn't get her autograph. I guess no autographs for you, Naruto, Tachibana said once Sakura shared the information with them. They followed several other eyewitnesses and ended up at a bar where they saw Fujika's drinking away her troubles. Excuse me Fujika-san, but would you like to leave? Tachibana asked politely as the rest of Team 7 looked around lazily. No, I don't want to go to that damn country ever again. Fujika shouted, clearly drunk, grabbing the attention of everyone in the bar. The remaining trio tried to do their best to apologize to the other customers for the disturbance, but Fujika's didn't seem to want to shut up. That country will be the end of me. No one's going to go there until the princess says so. I'm the princess and I say we aren't. Tachibana thought for a moment about what he could do to placate this drunk woman and complete their mission when he had a simple idea. Sure Fujika-san, you don't need to go. But only if you win a bet with me. Is that alright? Oh, it's you. Fujika said looking at Tachibana a bit surprised. Yes, it's me. But how about the bet? Do you agree to come with me if you lose the bet? Sure. What is it though? I'll only come with you if it's fair rrrr. It's a simple coin toss. But the only condition is I guess first. Oh, that's simply. Why Newt? Tachibana divined the outcome out of Fujika's view and then tossed a simple coin that he asked Fujika's to give for the fairness of the bet and called out a result. I say it'll be tails. Fujika's casually said, fine. Heads for me then. The coin tumbled onto the table and Fujika's trapped it between her palm. Wanna check out the result Fujika-san? Okay. Fujika's tried peering under her palm while it rested on the table since she was drunk, but Tachibana slowly lifted her hand to help her see. Damn it. It's tails. You'll have to follow me now Fujika-san. Arg. But I don't want to go. A promise is a promise isn't it? Fujika's was dragged to the village entrance by the end of the day after several more coin tosses through the way. Tachibana noticed each time he pulled out his topaz pendulum for divination the rest of Team 7 would flinch, but they hid it well, trying not to show them how much the thing had worried them. Once at the entrance, Sandayu took Fujika's to her cart and Yamato gave them an hour to prepare supplies and come back to the entrance so that they could set off. Tachibana prepared light, and after an overnight journey where Team 7 kept watch while rotating their shifts to protect the caravan with Yamato. They reached the dock early in the morning and the sleeping Fujika's was transferred to the ship effortlessly by Yamato. As they sailed, Tachibana was terribly bored. He couldn't read on ceilings since he didn't want to expose his capabilities, and since everyone else had packed light, no one thought to pack a board game or two to chase time away. So after letting an intrusive thought win, Tachibana walked over to Naruto and whispered something to him. Hey Naruto, wanna know who Sakura likes? Oh, yes. Naruto almost shouted but caught his tongue at the last minute. Alright, I'll ask her to look at who she likes and you'll know. Okay. Naruto quickly nodded. Tachibana walked over to Sakura and whispered to her, Sakura, who do you like more? Sasuke or Nar? Sasuke, Sakura said before the question even finished as she blushed while looking at Sasuke. That was surprisingly easy. Now I just have to pull off the trick. Tachibana then under the shocked gazes of both Sakura and Naruto walked up to Sasuke and whispered something to him. Sasuke, who do you hate surpassing you more, Sakura or Naruto? Naruto. Sasuke said almost glaring at Naruto. Tachibana nodded with a smile walking away at the absolute confusion he'd created between Team 7. Both Sakura and Naruto had the same thoughts in their minds. Sasuke likes Naruto, me. Yamato, who saw and heard everything that Tachibana did, just smiled and shook his head. _AN, sorry for the slow chapters, things will speed up from tomorrow. Just building a little bit of a relation between all the characters so that it seems more realistic. Tachibana, who was sitting on the bow of the ship, called out as he saw the large glacier in front of them. Director, there's a large glacier. Do you want to shoot on that thing? It has really unique ice mountains. The director was watching a replay of the scene Fujika's had shot this morning as he turned around and looked at the glacier Tachibana was pointing at. Oh, that's a good place Tachibana-kun. If you weren't a shinobi, I'd want to recruit you as my set director. Naruto and Sakura had arrived at about a look at the uniquely shaped mountains too. But that was when Sakura pointed something out. Doesn't that seem fake? I mean, is it really natural? Naruto was confused as to what Sakura was talking about, but Tachibana caught on. Ya think so? Yeah, it seems strange. I've never seen anything like that in the academy textbooks. Yamato-sensei will take care of whatever is troubling. Sakura gave him a deadpan gaze as she looked at how relaxed Tachibana was. Why are you so relaxed? It's an A- rank mission. Sakura complained. A rank? Really? I mean, it wasn't in the show, so I don't think it would have been too hard. Well, whatever, doesn't hurt to pay attention. Fine. I'll be a little serious. Tachibana nodded before jumping down from the ship and landing on the glacier. Naruto, wanna help me scout the mountains? Sakura's coming too. Naruto smiled when he heard that and immediately looked at Sakura, who just gave him a funny gaze. You can go west, I'm going east. Sasuke joined them too, and under Yamato's scrutinizing gaze they all began to explore the scene for any enemies. Before the genin of Team 7 could go too far, however, Yamato flickered from his position and arrived in front of them, having completed hand seals. Wood release. Unbreakable wooden wall. Yamato slammed his hands into the snow and outshot a 30-foot-high wooden wall that was 17 feet thick and 50 feet wide. But that was when Tachibana and the rest of Team 7 had their minds freeze. A giant, nearly transparent ice whale broke through the snow-capped mountain and crashed right into them. Yamato hurriedly modified the wooden wall into a wooden dome that wrapped around them from the front. As soon as the whale crashed into the dome, everyone heard a thunderous asterisk. The wooden dome, having the support of the ground, didn't sink too much, but not having completed fully from all sides, started to bend. Yamato was doing his best to keep the dome supported under the weight of the massive, but Tachibana realized it was a stupid thing he had to do only because the genin were there. They were being burdens and wasting his chakra. Everyone, get out of here while Yamato-sensei is holding the thing back. The genin came back to their senses as they rushed away from under the dome and moved in different directions. Sakura moved to the boat to guard it. Naruto and Sasuke moved to the sides while Tachibana rushed in between them all to a small snow hill from where he tried to assess the situation around them. Almost as soon as the genin dispersed, Yamato flickered out from under the ice whale and arrived at the base of the mountain from where their enemies had just attacked. Standing atop the mountain were 5 shinobi dressed in strange armor. Oh, looks like Konoha sent a somewhat competent team to guard the princess. The man leading the rest of the 3 spoke in a condescending manner while looking at Team 7. Oh come on Nader, they're just a bunch of kids. At their age, we were fighting a war. They probably haven't even been weaned yet with how much Konoha babies its shinobi. A girl with pink twin tails addressed loudly, trying to get to Team 7. Naruto frowned when he heard that. Although he understood that the lady was trying to get under their skin by her provocative remarks, he didn't quite like the way she was casually talking about killing. Oh great shinobi-samas, are you going to fight as silly children? Could you please leave us alone and we promise to leave you alone? Tachibana asked with a calm smile. Huh, sure, we'll give you a bottle of milk so that you can suck on it while we capture the princess and take her away. The twin-tail girl said with a smile. Is that so? Tachibana said, still smiling. What a shame. It was good to know you. Boom mmmmmmmmmmmmmmmmmm. A ridiculously loud explosion set off at the base of the snow mountain, sending a plume of smoke that covered the large avalanche that had been set off. While they were escaping from the ice whale, Tachibana noticed Yamato sending away a wood clone under the ice. So when he realized that Yamato was probably preparing a trap for them, Tachibana kept them distracted. But the first ice whale jutsu was impressive enough for them to know that a simple explosion wouldn't kill them. And so everyone in Team 7 prepared for the inevitable. Sasuke performed the hand seals for the fireball jutsu, Naruto performed the multi-shadow clone jutsu to create about 20 clones, and Sakura prepared several kunai tied to explosive tags. Yamato created more wood clones and hid them strategically around the snow, while Tachibana activated his spirit vision to see exactly where everyone was. They split up. Tachibana noticed as he saw all the enemies swim through the snow and move at a quick speed towards all the different members of Team 7. They're planning to take each of us in a one-on-one fight. Why? Wouldn't that give us the advantage? Good for us, I guess. Watch out. They're coming from underneath us. Tachibana warned everyone, causing Naruto to jump back while Sasuke and Sakura aimed their weapons and tossed them at the snow as soon as they saw it move. Sasuke's enemy was greeted with a fireball to the face while Sakura's with an explosion tag kunai. Yamato's enemy deflected the kunai that came for his throat almost immediately and escaped the ground with a protective stance. As soon as Tachibana tried to smash a kunai into the crown of his enemy, however, he vanished from underneath him as a sharp blade stabbed his neck. Tachibana was shocked as he felt his throat fill with blood. What? Almost instinctively Tachibana ignored the wound on his neck before jabbing a kunai with an explosion tag into the snow between him and the person behind him and rushing away from there with the help of body flicker jutsu. Then using damage transfer Tachibana moved the egregious wound on his neck to his forearm. Boom mmmmmmmmmmmmmm. The explosion tag exploded and Tachiba used the few seconds it bought him to look around to see if anyone noticed him almost dying and using damage transfer. It looks like I was lucky, everyone was absorbed in their own fights to pay any attention to me. Sasuke and Sakura's enemy appeared to be completely unharmed as if the fireball and explosive tag couldn't touch them at all. Naruto's enemy looked like a brawler and was ready to punch him while Yamato's enemy was about to attack him with a few thousand ice needles. Tachibana's attention was back on the shinobi he'd just blown up but found him just fine as if the explosion hadn't affected him at all. Phew, you're quick, the man complimented as he stepped out of the smoke that had filled the air after the short explosion. I thought I had you done when I stabbed your neck but turns out you blocked it with your arm. Tachibana only frowned at the explanation the man had cooked up. Is he pretending he doesn't know? Or did he really not notice it? Either way, there won't be any problems as long as I kill him. Each enemy shinobi's armor, although a similar deep blue, was different in structure. The one in front of Tachibana had armor that gave him lean legs that looked to be externally reinforced with hydraulics. On his stomach was a circular object with the yin and yang design etched onto it. Does it provide him extra speed? Or the ability to swim through snow quickly? Is that how he moved so fast and attacked me? Now that you've missed being able to kill me with the element of surprise, I'd like to tell you you're as good as dead. The man spoke, dusting off the little snow that had gotten into his armor because of the explosion. Weak, Tachibana taunted. Oh, you can't defeat me on your own and so you've decided to depend on the armor to defeat a genin. How pathetic. Tachibana said with a pitying look. The man's brows frowned but he smiled and explained, is that so? Fine then. Just for you, I shall not use the abilities of my special armor. I'll show you the gap between us. Tachibana smiled and used the body flicker jutsu to appear in front of the man. A kunai flickered into his fingers as he stabbed it at the man's eyes, but the man just as easily blocked it with his gloved palm as he made eye contact with Tachibana. In a contest of speed, you're nothing against me. You're as slow as a snail in my eyes. If this is all you have as a shinobi, then you're disappointing. Well, thank you for thinking I'm slow. But I'm not a shinobi. I'm a magician, Tachibana said with a smile before he kicked up with a kunai attached to the end of his feet using chakra. The man had to immediately dodge backwards to avoid his jaw being stabbed by the kunai, but Tachibana didn't let him. Dropping the kunai in his hand, Tachibana grabbed the man's arms and pulled him closer, his arms wrapping around the man's own like a snake because of his flexible bones, allowing Tachibana to hold the man in place. The man's eyes widened when Tachibana did this, and with a slight click of his tongue a sudden pink translucent circular barrier was drawn between the man and Tachibana. Tachiban's hands, which had already gone through the barrier, were given an electric shock as he was being forced away from the man lest he risk frying his nerves. But even as Tachibana held onto the man for a few seconds in hopes of stabbing the kunai on his leg into his head, but it was blocked by the pink barrier in between them, forcing him to make distance so that his entire body wouldn't be shocked. Ouch. Old man, you're a liar. Using your armor when you said you wouldn't. Do you have any pride? Bullying a child. A genin no less. The man had a prominent frown on his face as if he didn't like breaking his promise too. But he didn't notice the kunai Tachibana had dropped earlier had an explosion seal attached to it. His thoughts were too violent for him to observe the battlefield. If I kill this brat, no one will know. Yet he quickly recovered from the embarrassing moment and made a simple hand seal. Ice release. Ice prison. Solid ice crystals sprouted from the ground in Tachibana's direction as he used the body flicker jutsu to dodge around them continuously. Tachibana noticed the man was using the ice crystals not just to trap him but to surround him from all sides so that he couldn't retreat. What happened? Why are you so hell-bent on killing me? Afraid I'll spread the word around that you're just a fake. One that has to use his full power to kill a genin. What a laughable man you are. Tachibana taunted the man further. Just everything behind Tachibana was covered by the ice prison technique. The man suddenly vanished from his position. Tachibana, who was keeping track of the man using spirit vision, found him swimming at a rapid pace under snow. He was so fast, in fact, that before Tachibana could move even a little, the man had already come out of the snow and was about to stab Tachibana with a new kunai. Puchi. The kunai stabbed through Tachibana's neck once again and blood started to flow freely as Tachibana's eyes showed shock and horror. The man finally relaxed, but that was when his instincts blared at him to dodge. Even though it was a surprise strike, Tachibana was only able to pierce a kunai into the man's right shoulder, disabling it from use. The Tachibana the man had stabbed poofed for a second before a paper figurine with a hole in its head replaced it. The man quickly retreated back into the ice and re-emerged at the spot he was in previously as he looked at his disabled right hand with the kunai pierced into it. Oh, got hurt. Did a cat scratch you? Poor old man. I'm sure it'll heal quickly. Come to me, I can heal you quicker. With what I can do you won't ever need healing again. Tachibana said with a smile. The man frowned as he looked at Tachibana and then smiled with a simple hand seal. His trap was complete as he looked at Tachibana and spoke calmly, enjoy being frozen to death. There was a soft clink before the snow under Tachibana turned into ice and sprouted out of the ground, freezing him and trapping him inside a huge ice crystal. The man looked at Tachibana and smiled as he spoke. That's the problem with you genin, you get overconfident too easily. This was my plan all along. I wanted to turn the snow underneath your feet into ice so that no matter where you were in this entire area you'd only be in my trap. You were dancing in the palm of my hand since the beginning. There was no chance of victory. SSSSSSSHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHSuddenly the man looked underneath him and saw an explosive tag lit up. Oh, is that your last attempt to escape? Let me show you what my armor can. The man said, but before he could say anything, Tachibana appeared right in front of him and surprise MF. Jabbed a kunai into his neck before the explosion tag exploded to engulf Tachibana and the man in a ball of fire. How did he come here so fast? Was that a paper clone too? The man's eyes captured the ice crystal in which Tachibana had been trapped and saw nothing in it. BBB boom MMMMMMMMMMMMMMM. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. And please support the author by link in description. The fire receded, leaving behind a charred corpse with armor attached to it and a completely unharmed Tachibana. Tachibana checked himself for any damages other than the wound on his arm. He immediately looked at the other people on the snow-clad glacier. No one seemed to be in dire need of his help, not even Sakura, since Yamato had already used his clones to provide support to all the other genin in the battle. How cheap. I'm the last one you decide to help, Yamato-sensei. Tachibana complained as he looked at the wood clone that was digging its head out of the snow and looking around to help Tachibana escape his enemy. You already got yours. The clone asked with surprise. Yep, teleportation using a spark has the ability to catch people off guard after all. Sai, why do you always make me feel useless? That's because you are. Anyway, I hope you can help me examine this guy's armor so that we can beat those guys. They have this annoying pink shield that pops up and can negate pretty much all damage. Seriously? The clone asked since it had been in the snow all this time. Yep, I only killed him because I surprised him. Everyone else is stuck with trying to find a way to break through. The clone looked around for a moment before nodding. It probably won't be easy for us to find a weakness in their armor. Let's take the body along with us and retreat for now. We can fight them better when we know exactly what's keeping them immune from our attacks. Alright. Tachibana nodded and pulled out a storage scroll to seal away the body of his enemy. The wooden clone had already vanished from its place, going around to help everyone else retreat for now. Tachibana sent one last look at everyone else's battlefield and rushed back to the ship. Naruto looked at his enemy and growled. His eyes had turned red in color and his fangs had turned sharper. If shadow clones don't work against you, then I'll beat you up myself. Naruto shouted as he rushed towards the barwiller, who rushed with a maddened smile towards Naruto. Haha, kid, you're strong. I give you that. But you're naive. Just as Naruto's punch was about to reach the man, a pair of hands reached out from underneath and grabbed the man into the snow. Yamato's clone appeared behind Naruto at that moment and pulled him back. Let's return, Naruto. We need to go. We are taking a tactical retreat. Tactical retreat? Naruto asked with confusion, but he was already being carried back by Yamato's clone. Sakura and Sasuke were the next ones to be helped since their Yamato clones worked together to perform the wood release, pathway to hell jutsu, which caused bushes of thorns to emerge out of the snow and force the two enemies back while Sakura and Sasuke retreated. Finally, it was Yamato's turn, but he wanted to make sure they wouldn't be followed in their retreat, so he performed a series of hand seals as he slammed the floor to perform an S-class jutsu. Wood release, world tree bloom. The entire glacier trembled, and suddenly from the spot Yamato was standing in a small sapling sprouted. The sapling rapidly grew under the gaze of all the enemy shinobi into a large tree, but it didn't stop there. The tree kept growing with its roots burrowing into the surrounding ice to grow into new trees. This process kept repeating and soon the glacier was being flooded by trees. No, don't touch them. Nader shouted as he spotted one of his team members fighting back against the tree roots that were about to curl around his foot. But he was too late. As soon as the man tried to use his ice jutsu, the roots suddenly shot towards the man and pierced his body. My chakra. I can't use any more chalk, the man shouted, but midway through his screams the tree root that had pierced him had grown an entirely new tree out of his body. Nader looked around at the escaping Team 7 and spoke with a little disappointment. Let's leave, Dodo-sama will find us another chance. Back on the ship, Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke and even Tachibana along with the rest of the crew on the ship were left dumbstruck by the scale of the jutsu Yamato had pulled off. The hell? If you could do this earlier. Why didn't you do that? Tachibana complained. Even Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke looked at him with a frown. Yamato, who was sweating, spoke after performing an S-rank jutsu and explained himself softly. I can't control that thing once it's completed. It would have trapped you too if you weren't careful. And it's not like I can do much after using that. It takes nearly all my chakra to pull off. That was when Naruto spoke with a slight bit of amazement. Yamato-sensei, you're the best. Yamato smiled when he heard that and with a blush ruffled Naruto's hair as he spoke with a bold voice, ha 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 ha. Aren't I the best? Tachibana shook his head and interrupted their happy time. Don't we still have to inspect the armor we stole? So that we're better prepared next time. Yamato instantly stopped smiling and nodded. We have work to do, but before that, we need to talk with Miss Fujika's. Everyone's eyes fell on Fujika's, who was staring at the glacier that had been engulfed by a forest. Meeting in a room made off limits to everyone other than the director, his assistant, Fujika's, her assistant Sandayu, and the entirety of Team 7. Everyone was looking at Sandayu. I told you I didn't want to come back here. But you forced me. Now you know just how desperate they are to get me back. Fujika's nearly shouted. Sandayu only kept his head bowed and spoke softly once Fujika's was silent. Princess, I really hope you can reconsider. Everyone in the country has gathered one last time to rebel against Dodo's reign. He has been nothing but a curse for the land of snow. He kills whoever displeases him. He uses everyone for his aim to make weapons to fight against the shinobi nations. He is a tyrant. Tears were streaming down Sandayu's face as he finished his plea. But Fujika's wasn't moved. Do you really think we'll survive going against an entire country? Do you really think once we kill him, we'll be able to gain everyone's trust and support? If everyone is so against him, why are they even listening to him? Why don't they just kill him? Sandayu rubbed the tears on his face as he explained, he wears a strange armor that automatically stops anyone that comes close to him. And he has mastered a lot of forbidden ice jutsu. But even still we have the power of these shinobi by our side. We can win. Trust me Koyuki-sama. We can win. Koyuki. Isn't her name Yukie Fujika's? She's an actress, right? Naruto asked innocently. No one answered for a minute, but Yamato explained slowly. Her real identity is Koyuki Kazuhana. She's been on the run since she was 7. Konoha was the one that saved her on a mission issued by her father 20 years ago. Don't bring up memories of that wretched man. Koyuki shouted as tears filled her eyes. I still remember him promising me about the spring that was to come to the land of snow. However, the land of snow still remains covered by a blanket of death. Everyone fell silent at Koyuki's words. Tachibana looked at Yamato and then at Sandayu and frowned as his mind whirred with thoughts. Was this a canon story in the show? I don't remember watching it. Perhaps it was some filler arc that I missed or don't remember. Either way, I can feel Yamato-sensei knows more than he's letting on. No way he only now realized that Koyuki is the same girl saved by the village 20 years ago. He was probably told about it by the Hokage before we even began the mission. Especially since we never took the mission from the mission distribution center, but Yamato-sensei directly accepted it for us. So if the Hokage is personally involved in this mission and sent us to do it, that means he probably thinks this mission is not going to be terribly difficult, yet he wants to show to the client that the village is taking this mission seriously by sending a Jonin. He could have also sent us so that no feathers were ruffled with the other villages around us so that we could finish the task without letting any of them know exactly what we were doing. Hence there's also the movie crew scenario. Koyuki-sama. Tachibana spoke calmly, breaking the silence. Why don't you want to fight for your country? Is it because you don't want to see more people die, or do you truly believe that there is no hope in saving the country? The question was a sharp one and one that pierced through all the emotions surrounding the situation. Koyuki looked at Tachibana, and once she realized who he was, her eyes softened a bit. She looked at the table between them for a while to gather her words before she spoke. It is because I know how Dodo is. I can't even believe he is my father's younger brother because of how ruthless he is. I still remember what happened 20 years ago like the back of my hand. On that day, anyone in the court who was against him was killed without exception. He also killed anyone strong that was unwilling to submit under his reign. Anyone stronger than him was killed by taking their family hostage. He is a repulsive freak. I have no hope for anyone being able to reclaim the land from him. He can do anything to get to those that stand against him. He has no morals or even pride. All he cares about is being the rules of the land of snow. Koyuki said in a single breath, explaining her thoughts much clearer than before. Tachibana frowned at this, but after thinking a little he spoke calmly. Can I try something out, Koyuki-sama? Tachibana asked carefully. Try something? What do you want to try? I'm sure unless you have a way to know the future I won't be convinced. Team 7's eyes widened almost instantly at Koyuki's words as they all looked at Tachibana with a little expectation. Tachibana closed his eyes, sighed, and then explained. I can perform a divination. My divinations are usually pretty accurate if you interpret them well. Huh, I'm serious. Tachibana nodded before letting his pendulum hang. As long as my divination says there won't be a way to save your country, I won't participate in the fight too. It's not like I want to do a thankless task. There was silence for a minute as everyone in the room apart from Team 7 looked at Tachibana with a little confusion. Are you seriously asking me to believe in a rock? Koyuki complained. I don't think you remember this, but do you know how I brought you back from the bar when you were drunk and didn't want to board the ship? Tachibana asked with a light smile. Oh. Koyuki frowned and then asked, how? I place a game to figure out how a coin toss would land each time you wanted to quit. I won all the coin tosses thanks to this. If you still don't believe me, why don't I show it to you? Why don't I walk out of this room? You give me 2 cups of coffee. In one you mix the dirt under your sandals and in one you don't. I'll tell you which one is which. Koyuki frowned, but then when she found Tachibana looking at her with a smirk, she didn't hesitate, wanting to end the matter without dragging it out. Fine. Tachibana left the room, after which Team 7 followed since Koyuki didn't trust them to leak the information to him. Sandeu opened the door after a few minutes and looked at Tachibana with some skepticism. Even he couldn't believe someone could peer through fate. They'd have been a lot more famous if that was the case after all. Are you sure this will work? Sandeu asked politely. Tachibana didn't even get time to answer when Naruto shouted, he's the best at predicting the future. No one can match him. Tachibana entered the room and looked at Koyuki, who was holding 2 cups of coffee, and walked over to her. Never thought I'd get the chance to have a real princess serve me coffee, and I like it very much. Any ideas of leaving your job as an actor to serve me coffee every day? I'll pay you, Tachibana said with a teasing smile, but stopped when Koyuki glared at him. Alright, I'll get to it. Tachibana held the topaz pendulum loosely and allowed it to hang above the first cup of coffee as he mumbled words only Koyuki heard. This cup of coffee has something mixed in it that might be harmful to me. Repeating the statement 7 times, Tachibana opened his eyes to see the pendulum spinning clockwise. He smiled but didn't say anything and did the same with the other coffee cup. The pendulum spun counterclockwise for the second cup, making Tachibana's smile widen. I'll have the second cup, Koyuki-sama. Tachibana calmly stated as he extended his hand for the second cup, causing everyone's eyes in the room to widen. But before he could do anything, Koyuki smiled beautifully and attempted to charm Tachibana into taking the first cup. Please take this one, I made it with all my love, just for you. Tachibana gave her a strange look and then spoke kindly in barely above a whisper, I'm sorry Koyuki-sama, but I'm not interested in girls with valleys. Koyuki froze and Tachibana pulled out the second coffee cup from her hands and quickly drank the tasty hot liquid in it. How fragrant, Tachibana thought as he walked back to his seat at the table. Koyuki broke out of her frozen state after a few seconds when Sandeu asked her a question, do we trust his abilities, Koyuki-sama? Koyuki frowned at the question and turned to Tachibana, who was enjoying his fresh coffee. What can you even do with your divination? How would it tell us if we'll live or die? Everyone turned to look at Tachibana and he only nodded. You are right. A simple pendulum divination wouldn't give us much insight into the situation. But I can perform an astrolabe that will give us more details about the issues and how to avoid them. With no one responding, Tachibana looked at them all and asked, what happened? Are we going to try it out or not? Everyone then looked at Koyuki and she finally sighed. Fine. Let's give whatever you think is most appropriate for the situation a try. Okay then. Let's start with pendulum divination for a primary answer and then move on to other things later. Tachibana let the pendulum hang from his wrist once again and asked a simple question, audible to everyone in the room. We will be able to reinstate Koyuki Kazahana as the ruler of the land of snow once again without suffering any major setbacks. Everyone paid strict attention to Tachibana's pendulum, whether it was Team 7 or everyone on Koyuki's side, since they all wanted to know just how dangerous the mission they were currently on was after all. Tachibana opened his eyes and looked at the pendulum. It's spinning clockwise at a decent pace. What does it mean? Koyuki asked calmly with her hands on the table. It should be decently easy for us to do so given we all do things to the best of our abilities, but there will still be 1 or 2 setbacks. Tachibana interpreted expertly and calmly. Is that so? Koyuki said with a little apprehension. That was when Sandayu interrupted, Koyuki-sama. You must not worry. Every fight between light and dark is won only by our sacrifices. Do not worry about this retainer of yours. He is ready to serve with his life if he has to. And so is everyone else we've gathered. Is this how Maruboshi felt when he sacrificed himself for Konoha? Tachibana thought. In this moment the old figure of Sandayu and Maruboshi seemed to overlap in his mind. Don't the people who sacrifice their lives for people like me deserve to at least be treated well after death? Even if while they were alive they were treated like tools by their superiors. Koyuki closed her eyes to think about it all and after a few seconds opened her eyes and looked at Yamato before revealing her decision. I will help you, help me only if you prepare for everything that could happen. If at a single point, I can no longer see our hope for victory, I will give to Dodo exactly what he wants so that no one on our side suffers further for this worthless land. Yamato nodded and agreed with her before turning to the director as he explained, I will need your help for the upcoming parts, Director Makino. May we discuss this elsewhere? The director nodded and everyone in the room slowly started to leave since they all had various works to complete before the next shoot. Koyuki was the only one left in the room with Tachibana, who was sipping on coffee like it was the tastiest thing he'd ever had. Can we really do this? Koyuki asked Tachibana now that everyone was gone. As long as we all give our best, we should be fine. Tachibana nodded and stood up from his chair. Don't worry about it too much. Instead of worrying about the future, try doing what you can do right now. After all, reality isn't like a movie. If you only wish for what you want without doing it, you won't end up with a happy ending. Koyuki nodded with a smile, allowing Tachibana to return. Back in his room, Tachibana was surrounded by Sakura, Sasuke and Naruto, who were all looking at the armor and the corpse he'd pulled out of his storage seal. How did you get him with an explosion tag, Tachibana-kun? Sakura asked with some confusion since she'd wasted a few explosives but each one of them was shielded away by the pink shield. That was when Sasuke explained, he killed him not by using an explosion tag but by slicing his neck. Sasuke said, pointing at the cut in the man's neck that was sized just enough for a kunai to fit through it. But how did you do even that? How did you bypass the pink shield? Sakura still asked. Tachibana only shook his head for now and said, I'll explain that to you guys later, but for now I want you to help me find out a weakness in this armor so that we can battle them better later. Naruto was the only one who looked at the three of his teammates with a frown. Are you really not bothered by the smell of his cooked body? No one said anything and continued examining the special armor as if they were ignoring Naruto, so he just folded his hands and sat down on the floor, frowning since he knew he didn't know enough to help them without dragging them down. Why do you think there's a weakness, Tachibana-kun? Because they chose to fight us one-on-one when it would have been much easier to gather us around Yamato-sensei and force him to fight while protecting us. So there has to be some sort of weakness in the armor that forced them to fight us one-on-one. Sasuke's eyes narrowed and he thought back to the fight when he remembered that was exactly what happened. He was a little surprised by Tachibana's insight. Wouldn't the weakness just be this large circle in the middle on his stomach? Naruto asked innocently, I mean in all the superpower shows I see on TV the villain always has a weakness like this, since he couldn't just stay put in his spot on the floor. Tachibana patted Naruto's head as if he was pacifying him and spoke like a mother would to a child, you are right. But we are trying to find out how exactly we exploit this weakness. Go to the fridge, there's a box of ramen in there that you can have. Naruto nodded and started walking to the fridge to get ramen. He stopped for a few seconds thinking something was wrong about this situation, but after failing to rack his brain for what was wrong he just ignored it and went to get himself a ramen. Sakura and Sasuke became dumbfounded and looked at Tachibana, but he just waved his hands and brought back the topic to the armor. We should first figure out exactly how the armor is activated, then we can test various things to see exactly what we can use to penetrate the pink shield. Okay. Sakura nodded while Sasuke began to look around the armor using his Sharingan to see if he could spot something like a switch. Tachibana traced along the body of the man, seeing if there was some sort of manual activation switch or something, but it was Sakura who figured out the switch before the both of them. This, Sakura said, pointing at a small circular disc-like thing attached to the exoskeleton around the man's thigh. This is the switch, I'm pretty sure. It works when he tightens the muscles in his thigh. It senses that and then activates. Is there any way we can test it out right now? Tachibana asked, and Sakura thought for a moment before explaining, no. The only way would be for us to wear the armor, but I don't know if it is safe. Huh, Tachibana thought for a while until his eyes landed on Naruto. Oh, I have an idea, Tachibana said with a smile that confused Sakura and Sasuke, but then they saw him walk towards Naruto. Naruto, my best friend, you ate my ramen, now you need to do something for me. Tachibana said calmly as he swung his arm around Naruto's neck. Naruto looked at him with an innocent but happy smile as he spoke, oh. What should I do for you? Nothing, you just need to wear this armor for a little while so that we can study it better. Oh, that's all. Sure, I don't mind. Naruto nodded with a broad smile, you can count on me to help. Such a great best friend you are. Tachibana proclaimed, causing Sakura and Sasuke to look away as they tried to hold back their laughter. With Naruto wearing the armor, everyone else looked at him with focus. Can you tighten your legs, Naruto? That might activate the armor. Naruto nodded and clenched his hands while tensing his muscles as everyone else paid attention to him. Sasuke looked on with his Sharingan activated while Sakura observed Naruto from a little distance away. Tachibana was the only one standing right by Naruto's side and closely inspecting the armor as it functioned. Can you feel anything, Naruto? Tachibana asked, but Naruto shook his head as he scratched his cheeks. Should I be feeling something? The armor is taking chakra from his body, Sasuke said while pointing at the yin-yang symbol on the armor. Now that you mention it, it feels a little ticklish, Naruto said, unsure about how to describe what he was feeling. I guess the rate at which it is absorbing Naruto's chakra doesn't even leave a dent in his massive reserves. So the armor runs on the chakra of the person wearing it? Sakura asked calmly. Looks like, Tachibana said, but was forced to dodge when all of a sudden a pink spherical shield wrapped around Naruto. How did you do that? Tachibana asked with some surprise. Naruto was still confused, but Sasuke had the answer to his question. The chakra flow shifted slightly in the armor. Instead of simply powering it, the armor is projecting the chakra outwards after modifying it using complicated seals that I don't understand. Tachibana nodded. Naruto-kun, could you relax your body a little? Sure, Naruto nodded, but all of a sudden, instead of the shield powering down, Naruto found himself pummeled face first into a wall. Bang! Everyone became worried and Tachibana looked at Sasuke to see if there were any difficulties, but after he shook his head, Tachibana walked up to Naruto and spoke to him. Are you alright? My head, it hurts, Naruto complained as he pulled away from the wall. There was a bump on his head, and his nose was pink with a single red streak of blood leaking out of it. I guess that's a special feature of this suit. It can increase your speed tremendously. Tachibana explained patiently, but Naruto wasn't listening and much of what Tachibana said went over his head. Sasuke-kun, do you know how to turn off the suit? Sakura asked, and Sasuke looked at the suit in silence for a few seconds before he nodded. I can help, Sasuke said and walked closer to Naruto. He carefully extended his arm to touch the chakra armor, but just as he was about to disrupt the flow of chakra. Bzit ouch. Naruto activated the pink shield again by mistake and caused Sasuke to jump back because of the strong lighting that arced into his body through his finger. Sasuke held his hand and examined the swollen burn mark on it with a glare, but remembering he had to appear cool in front of Naruto, he quickly hid his hand while pretending as if nothing had happened. Naruto's expression, however, turned for the worse. He didn't even feel pride in the fact that whatever he had done had caused Sasuke to look uncool in front of Sakura. Can I never get out of this armor now? Naruto shouted while dropping onto his knees. Tachibana-kun, help me. Naruto shouted, trying to hold Tachibana's thigh, but Tachibana did his best to dodge him since the pink armor hadn't been deactivated yet. Naruto, aren't you the strongest ninja in the world that will become the Hokage in the future? Tachibana asked, causing Naruto to freeze in his place. He looked at Tachibana with an adoring look and then shouted, "Yes. I will become the Hokage. I believe in you, Naruto. So don't worry about this. This is just a small trouble on the way to becoming the Hokage. I promise you we'll get you out of that suit before anything too bad happens." Tachibana-kun, Naruto shouted with love, but Tachibana, Sakura and Sasuke had already left the room before closing the door behind them. "I promise to help you, Naruto. You can have my instant ramen until then as compensation." Naruto's eyes were watery, but he quickly wiped his tears and looked at the several tasty ramen bowls to indulge himself in a quick meal. I guess the old man Hokage was right. Each bad situation has its own good sides and I just need to find and enjoy them. Where else could I have gotten a great friend like Tachibana-kun? He's so nice. Once they were sufficiently far away, Sakura and Sasuke turned to look at Tachibana. "Tachibana-kun, is it safe for Naruto to be in that suit? What if it does something to him? We should have thought better and asked Yamato-sensei's permission before giving him the armor to wear." "Don't worry about it." Tachibana casually waved his hand. "I can divine about it, and if it really turns out bad for him, we can just get Yamato-sensei to help us. I'm sure he won't mind it if we say Naruto accidentally happened to find the suit while we were experimenting with it and tried it on to grow stronger." Sasuke and Sakura looked at Tachibana with wide eyes, causing him to shrink a little. "Why are they looking at me like this? Why did they look like I'm the only one that was wrong? Weren't they involved in the research too?" Tachibana ignored their pointed gaze and pulled out his pendulum. "Wearing the special armor is dangerous for Naruto." Tachibana repeated the statement 7 times and opened his eyes. The pendulum was spinning counterclockwise, allowing Tachibana to show a smile. "Would you look at that? This means it's really good for him to be wearing the armor. So don't worry about it," Tachibana said and casually waved his hand. "Who's wearing the armor?" Yamato asked from behind the trio. Everyone became stiff at Yamato's question and turned around slowly. "Where's Naruto?" Yamato asked, giving Team 7 a confused look that made them even more afraid. "He doesn't know. He didn't hear us fully," Tachibana deduced. "Ah, sensei, he's not well right now and he needs to rest a little." Sakura covered for them as Tachibana nodded and Sasuke looked away, not wanting to lie directly in front of Yamato. Yamato gave the trio a suspecting look before he smiled and explained, "If he's sick I need to check up on him a little so that I know it's not a poison the enemy has used." Tachibana grabbed Yamato's hand to stop him and explained, "Don't worry sensei, Sakura here already checked on Naruto. There were no wounds on him that might have poisoned him. We're already sure it's just Naruto's stomach complaining to him because he eats too much ramen." Yamato gave Tachibana a strange look but then nodded and relaxed. "If you say so." With Yamato relaxed, he gave the team a simple order, "I want all of you guys to come to the same room we were in before. We will plan out our course of action for the future of this mission." Tachibana and company nodded with a smile until Yamato added, "Bring Naruto. I'm sure he should also know the plan so that no one is left behind." Tachibana and company gulped with worry but then quickly nodded, "Yes Yamato-sensei, he'll be there." Yamato nodded and left, after which Sakura turned to Tachibana and asked with worry, "What do we do now, Tachibana-kun?" "Alright, so here's our plan," Yamato explained to everyone in the room along with all the genin of Team 7 who had gathered. Even Naruto. The only difference was everyone in Team 7 was wearing a cloak to keep themselves warm. Sakura's gaze kept shifting to Naruto and then to Yamato, but she quickly learned to focus and not disturb the gathering and focused solely on Yamato. Naruto was a little uncomfortable wearing the armor, but he listened to Tachibana and put on a cloak to hide it from Yamato since Tachibana promised him he'd be free of the armor sooner than later. Doto and his gang of shinobi want something Princess Koyuki has. Specifically, they want the hex crystal key that is around her neck. Yamato explained, pointing at the slender glass key with some sort of dark shimmering fluid inside it. We will work together to keep the film shooting going in the land of snow, and we will bait out Dodo and his gang by replacing the key with a convincing fake, Yamato said, showing a key similar to the one Koyuki was holding. Everyone nodded since the plan was simple until here. What we will do next is even simpler. Once Dodo and his gang of shinobi take our bait, we will fight them by focusing on the weakness of their armors. Team 7 became visibly tensed while Naruto became happier since this meant that Yamato would be taking him out of the armor to examine it. It seems like Tachibana-kun was right. The armor was going to be taken away soon. Naruto nodded, but why don't I master its use and fight with it? Don't I look cool while wearing it? It can even force Sasuke to stay away from me. As Naruto started daydreaming, Koyuki asked Yamato an important question. What if we don't figure out the flaw in their armor by the time we reach our destination? Don't worry, we already have one of their armors. And if we really aren't able to figure out a flaw in their armor, we can hold off until we receive reinforcements from Konoha. Koyuki nodded. Soon everyone went back to their room, except Team 7 who stayed back. Yamato walked up to Naruto and spoke calmly, Naruto-kun, now let's dissect you, why don't we? Team 7 froze as they all looked at Yamato, who was looking at them with a dangerous smile. What? Did you really think you could keep it from me? If you could hide an entire armor by simply draping a cloth around it, everyone would be doing that, you fools. Hee. Tachibana gave a short laugh and then tried to distract Yamato from scolding them. We figured out a few things while we were fooling around with the armor too, Yamato-sensei. Oh, did you now? Yep. Sasuke-kun used his Sharingan to figure out that the armor only works by using the chakra of its wearer. And Sakura figured out how we could activate the armor. Oh, Yamato was genuinely surprised. Either way, Naruto-kun, lay down on the table please. *B's TTT. The pink shield appeared around Naruto once again and shocked Yamato. This time the shield seemed to have been exceptionally strong since Yamato's hair smelt like it had been burnt and stood on its end like he was touching a Van de Graaff generator. Ah, we also figured out that, Tachibana said belatedly while looking at Yamato with a little pity. Yamato looked at them with dead eyes, and then sighed a little. Would have been better to know that before I was shocked. Soon Naruto was lying on the table and Yamato was using a wood clone to manipulate the armor by turning its various functions on and off with the help of Sasuke's Sharingan. After a while, when Tachibana and Sakura had finished noting down all its functions, Yamato pointed out the flaw in the armor. Tachibana-kun, you were right. I was. Yes. There is a reason why our enemies chose to fight us one-on-one. Oh. Suddenly everyone became interested, even Sasuke, who had almost fallen asleep because he had continuously been using the Sharingan and was tired. It is because the weakness of the armor is another armor. The pink field is formed from a simple barrier seal that can block all physical and chakra attacks. How does that make its weakness another armor? Because if another armor turns on the pink barrier at the same time, they will try to repel each other. But since the barriers are fixed to the chakra extracting machine, it means that the barriers will destroy the machine powering them as they try to repel each other, making the armors their own biggest weaknesses. I see, Tachibana nodded, so if we come across them all we have to do is bring two of them close to each other and force them to destroy the barrier. That is one way. Otherwise, you can catch them off guard like you did with your enemy, and the third way would be to bear the pain from the pink barrier and deactivate the chakra extracting machine so that the barrier loses power. Yamato explained to everyone on Team 7. He then continued to explain to them exactly how they could deactivate the chakra extracting device, and everyone except Naruto understood. And since Yamato realized Naruto couldn't follow him, he gave him a simpler method. Naruto. From today on, you will keep wearing this armor at all times. You must practice controlling the features of the armor so that when enemies attack you, you can just use your pink barrier to destroy their armor. Naruto was relieved that there was still a way for him to fight against the enemies and that he wouldn't be left behind by his teammates or become a burden to them. He was also happy to have the armor for longer since it appealed to him and felt like it was something cool. So for the next 3 days, Team 7 performed a strange kind of practice. Yamato made everyone on the team attack Naruto's chakra extraction device to learn how to deactivate it for a few moments, which they could use to kill their opponents, while Naruto trained to work on how to avoid their attacks by controlling his armor better. Eventually, after 3 days they landed at a dock in the Land of Snow, and with the help of snow sledge dogs that they rented from a village nearby reached the peak of a mountain that was their next shooting site. Everyone on Team 7 was a little tense since Yamato's plan depended on Dodo and his men accepting the bait in the form of the princess. Tachibana passed around steaming hot cup ramen so that everyone on Team 7 could remain warm and wouldn't freeze to death due to the frosty temperatures on the mountain. How are Koyuki-san and the other actors able to act so freely in spite of the cold? Naruto asked as he sniffled to prevent his snot from dripping into the cup ramen. Once of the set assistants heard Naruto's question and spoke with pride. Haha. Fujika-sama is the best actress in the world. A little cold is nothing in front of her skills, but pack warmers are also helpful, I guess. The man said with a smile as he showed Team 7 heat packs that could be stored in their dresses. Before the man could even react, all the heat warmers were gone. Taken by Team 7, who used it to keep their shivering bodies warm. Whoa. This feels so good, almost like a hot spring. Waiting on the sidelines while watching Koyuki act alongside all her other partners wasn't new for Team 7 since they'd watched it all happen on the ship while they were traveling to the Land of Snow. But what kept their attention glued to Koyuki was the fact that her acting skills were top-notch. Once the camera started rolling, they couldn't believe they were looking at the same person anymore. She really embodied the role of the character she was playing by masterfully controlling her expression to convey meaning and emotion in the dialogues she spoke. More than her acting skills though, Team 7 didn't want to let their eyes slip from her because they were worried the moment they would let go of her would be the moment Dodo and his men would kidnap her. Team 7 had already confirmed that the plan would work with the help of Tachibana's divination, so the only questions left were when it would happen and how. Rumble. What happened, Tachibana-kun? Sakura asked, noticing Tachibana frowning. Did you hear something rumble just now? Was it your stomach, Naruto? No. I'm not hungry anymore. I had 3 bowls of ramen. Rumble. Wait, I heard it this time. Sakura said, standing up as she started to look around with Tachibana. Both looked around for a few seconds before they noticed Sasuke suddenly open his Sharingan and look at the top of the mountain with horror. What in the world? Avalanche! Naruto shouted, grabbing the attention of all the people on the summit. Yamato immediately noticed the large tsunami of snow and chunks of ice tumbling down the mountain. But instead of helping form a barricade to stop the snow from crushing and drowning them all, Yamato called out different orders. Everyone, quickly gather around the center. The cast and the crew quickly followed Yamato's orders and crowded around the center before he formed hand seals and caused a spherical wooden dome to cover them all. Koyuki, the director, the cameraman and Team 7 were left out of this dome as they were meant to face the avalanche themselves. Just as Yamato was in the process of forming more hand seals, 2 shinobi dropped down from the sky and landed on the snow. They're here. Naruto called out as he rushed towards the Land of Snow shinobi to disable their shield and blow up their armor. Haha, you thought you could escape us by burying us in the sea with that glacier. I guess you weren't prepared for this. Nadare said while looking at Yamato, who was frowning. Nadare immediately formed hand seals and slapped his palms together. Ice release. Rose bush. All of a sudden, ice plants grew out of the snow, spreading in all directions from him as they moved most rapidly towards Yamato to intercept him. Yamato was forced to stop his hand seals and forced to dodge the ice plants, which had long thorns in them. Meanwhile, the second shinobi who had landed quickly rushed towards Koyuki while the director filmed it all with the help of the cameraman. Team 7 didn't waste even a little time and moved to confront the shinobi moving towards Koyuki. With Naruto in the lead, everyone behind him pulled out their own means of attacking. Sakura pulled out an explosive seal kunai, Sasuke his Sharingan, while Tachibana pulled out kunai and shuriken attached with wires drenched in oil so that they could catch fire easily. Naruto used his armor and vanished under the snow as Tachibana tracked him swimming through it to reach directly underneath the shinobi that was about to attach a hook to Koyuki's obi belt of a kimono. Naruto shot out of the snow rapidly and punched a lady in her chin, throwing her about 10 feet back. Sakura and Sasuke surrounded the lady while Tachibana looked at the hook that was hanging off what appeared to be a blimp. The heck is a blimp doing in this world? If there are blimps, why isn't there an intercontinental ballistic missile here? Why don't they just invent nukes and blow up everyone? Tachibana guessed where the thin invisible wire connected to the hook was and tossed his own shuriken at it, snapping it off and removing the danger of Koyuki being airlifted suddenly mid-battle lesser. Shifting his attention back onto the shinobi that was fighting Team 7, Tachibana was about to throw his shuriken, but just then he heard a soft whistle riding through the air. Tachibana looked up but was unable to spot anything, except Sasuke looked up at the same time and his eyes widened as he shouted, "Find cover." Naruto sank into the snow while Sasuke saved Sakura by grabbing her and rushing towards the ice walls from where they both rushed away. Tachibana instantly listened to Sasuke and was about to use the body flicker jutsu and run away from the area, but managed to glance at the female shinobi who unhesitatingly rushed towards Koyuki and was about to kidnap her. Tachibana didn't understand how she was so uncaring about whatever was coming and so assumed that if he stayed by her side he could save himself too, and so instead of rushing away from the area, Tachibana rushed towards Koyuki to save her from getting kidnapped. What Tachibana failed to understand was that if they had just been normal kunai dropping out of the sky, Sasuke's reaction wouldn't have been warranted, except they weren't so simple. As soon as the kunai came in contact with the snow, they grew into 30 feet tall spiky bushes. The hell? How does she think she'll get away from this? Tachibana cursed at his luck as he saw the 30-foot tall spiky monuments spawning in and turning the area into a thorny crystal icy forest. Tachibana kept his focus on the twin-tailed shinobi and soon saw spider-like extensions emerging out of her back as she used them to grab onto Koyuki before extending her arms in the direction of the blimp in the sky. A sharp spike shot out of one of the extensions on her back as it pierced directly into the metallic body of the blimp. But before she could retreat into the safe haven of her sky, Tachibana jumped onto her. Just as the ladies were being reeled back up towards the blimp, Tachibana managed to catch Koyuki's feet and hug them for dear life. The twin-tailed shinobi noticed their sudden slowing down due to the added weight and looked down at Tachibana with a frown. "You're not going to escape this time, lady," Tachibana shouted as he hung onto Koyuki as they were lifted into the air. Tachibana thought the twin-tailed shinobi would stop going higher into the sky for fear of the string connecting them and the blimp breaking. But to his unfortunate surprise, the twin-tailed shinobi started trying to stomp on his head to get him off by piercing his head with the sharp end of her boots. "What are you doing, lady? The string will break. Do you want to die along with me? As if this thing can withstand 9 Gs of force. You should be worried about yourself more. You've managed to come up, but how will you go back down?" Meanwhile, Koyuki tried to remain calm throughout the situation as Tachibana kept swinging all around her to dodge the attack of the twin-tailed shinobi. Looking at the distance between the blimp and the ground, Tachibana decided to take the risk. "I can just drop an explosive tag and teleport to it if I can't hide on the ship." Finally, as they were about to reach the blimp, Tachibana pulled out an explosive tag and stuck it to the twin-tailed shinobi's boots. "What are you doing? Do you want all of us to die?" the lady shouted as the explosive tag was lit. She hurriedly kicked away the boot and just as they landed in the blimp it exploded a little away from them. BB boom mmmmmmmmmmmmmmmm. The twin-tailed shinobi looked around and to her surprise didn't find Tachibana anywhere around them. Did he fall back down? The twin-tailed shinobi was confused and she wondered if Koyuki had hidden him. But seeing her looking down with a worry-filled expression, she was satisfied. He probably lost grip because of the explosion and fell down. "Good for me. Ah, this truly is the best," a man said looking out the window as he watched the snow-clad mountains. He took a puff out of the cigarette in between his fingers as he leaned on the window, enjoying the cool and fresh air rushing past him at such a high altitude. It's good that I trained Meru-kun to take over after me soon. Now is my time to retire and relax. I'll miss flying in up so high in this blimp though. Maybe I'll just ask Meru-kun to sneak me on a ride sometime. Crackle crackle. The man looked at his cigarette which had begun crackling as he wondered what was happening. All of a sudden, the end of his cigarette burst into flames. He shielded his eyes from the flames using his hand after dropping his cigarette but didn't realize that would be the last time his eyes would ever remain open. Tachibana looked around the room. Apart from the man underneath his feet who was unconscious, Tachibana didn't find anyone. This guy was probably a guide or maintenance handler of some sort for the blimp, Tachibana guessed as he looked at the man. Tachibana then used spirit vision to look for everyone else around him. He spotted Coyuki and then saw the several other souls around her, assuming they were shinobi keeping guard around her. They don't seem to be treating her poorly, for now at least, so I have time to plan exactly how I want to assassinate Dodo and his gang of shinobi. Tachibana hid the body of the old man inside a bed in the room after stealing his clothes and changing them with his own. Then he thoroughly examined the old man's body to check for any signs of obvious ailments and noticed quite a few things. His lungs are in terrible condition, he will die in a couple more months. His right knee is busted and his liver is practically rotting. So he probably coughs often and limps while walking. I don't know how he speaks, but as long as I don't speak in front of anyone else, I might be able to pass off as him. Tachibana nodded before using the transformation jutsu to become the man in front of him. Tachibana then scoured the room for his belongings and learnt that the man had a grandson whose name was Meru. He had a daughter whose name was Hina who was married to a logger who was named Hiro. The man's name was Kato. He used the words, "you fool," a lot in his diary, so Tachibana decided to insert it into most of his sentences. If I copy the accent Koyuki used while acting in that mountain scene, my dialect should pass off as genuine, right? Since the character of Princess Gale is a tribal character who lives in cold mountains too. Overall, he was just a simple maintenance man in the blimp and was about to retire. He picked up the cigarette that had almost turned into ashes and snuffed it out in the ashtray that had even more cigarettes in it. Do I wait inside or go outside and explore the ship? It's better I stay inside, will help me infiltrate their ranks easier if they forget about me. Knock knock. Old man, you in there? I guess not. Cough cough. Tachibana started coughing as his life depended on it. He walked up to the door with an obvious limp that made creaking sounds wherever he put more pressure on the wooden floor because of it. Opening the door, Tachibana looked at the young boy who was about 18 years old in front of him. He looked at Tachibana with an expectant expression as Tachibana quickly analyzed everything about him and spoke while looking away. You fool. I almost choked on a cigarette because you caught me off guard. Haha, haven't you had enough of those stinking things already? The young boy asked. Stinking. That's only because you still don't have hair down there. Only a real man can appreciate the taste of fire and smoke. The boy blushed with embarrassment before he quickly walked into the room and helped his limping grandfather to sit on the bed. Why did ya come here? Done with the maintenance. I forgot. Tachibana gave him an incredulous judging look and was about to rant on about how the young boy was irresponsible, but before he could get to it the boy spoke quickly. But instead of shouting it out loud, the boy leaned in close to Tachibana and whispered. I know where they'll be taking Princess Koyuki after we land. I overheard a few of the shinobi-sama talking about it. We can ask her for an autograph after we land. Tachibana gave the boy a deadpan look, before slapping the back of his head. You fool. You think the guards will just let us walk over to her? What will we tell them? That we admire the prisoner they are guarding. The boy seemed to have realized something and he nodded with a little seriousness. I get it. Goo. I'll distract them while you go in and quickly get a signature. Tachibana raised his hand to hit the boy again, but this time his eyes widened again. No. I get it now. Truly. The boy said quickly. I was only joking before. Okay, Goo. I know you can't be quick because your knee's broken, so I'll go get the autograph while you distract the guards. Tachibana wanted to slam his head into a wall. It took a little convincing, but the boy finally understood that they couldn't just walk into a prison and meet a heavily guarded prisoner. The boy stayed behind and talked to Tachibana about various things, like how he would propose to one of the shinobi guards and such, while Tachibana himself mostly just stayed silent to listen to the boy. He absorbed all the information Meru told him while silently preparing for the blimp to land and infiltrate the castle with Meru-kun while pretending to be his grandfather. He assumed no one would raise questions if Meru wouldn't about Tachibana disguising as the old man. Finally, after what seemed to be 30 long minutes, the blimp was going to land and Meru went back to the engine room to see if they needed his help. Once he was back, Tachibana walked along with him into the large black ironwood castle, and just as he suspected, none of the shinobi guarding the area suspected anything wrong about him. Eventually, once they entered their room in the castle to sign off duty, Tachibana turned to Meru and spoke softly, "You go ahead, I'll come back in a little bit." Although he didn't understand why his grandfather would come later, he nodded obediently and left before allowing Tachibana to go around to the prison block, which he learnt the location of from Meru. Once there, the guards blocked him from going any further. "You can't go there if you're not a shinobi or don't have permission from one." Tachibana looked at the two guards and brought up tears in his eyes. "Please, my grandson is my grandson is my grandson is Old man, is there anything after your grandson? My grandson is a big fan of Princess Gale. I heard they brought her to this prison. Perhaps I can get an autograph for him." Tachibana coughed a few more times for good measure, and just when the guards were about to deny him, he played the emotional card. "Please. As you can see, I don't have very long. I want to do something for my grandson before I die." The guards looked unconvinced. "Please. I worked for Dodo-sama for 10 years, flying that blimp ever since it was first made." The guards had an unwilling look in their eyes, and that's when Tachibana struck. "Please. What can a feeble old man like me really do when you great shinobi-sama are present by my side? I also promise to take you and your families on a ride on the blimp." The guards looked at each other and then back at Tachibana, who was almost crying, and after a silent debate nodded. "All right, old man, we'll take you. But you have to do exactly as we say." "Okay." Tachibana nodded with a smile. "My throat is sore. If I have to keep this up, I'll end up coughing for real soon." The guard pulled out a pair of handcuffs and quickly slapped it around Tachibana's wrist. Did they catch me acting? You better keep them on," the guard said after checking to see if they were tightly around Tachibana's wrist. "Come on, do you really think I'll be able to do anything? Even if I do something, where do you think I'll go? It's not like I can run away. Old man, you better keep your lips sealed. Otherwise, when you cough out your lungs, people will think we killed you," the guard said with a stern look on his face. Tachibana just nodded with a smile and began to follow the guard who was escorting him into the prison, while the other guard stayed back at the door to guard it and prevent anyone else from entering. "Can't you walk fast, you old man?" the guard complained, seeing Tachibana limp around as if he was on his last leg. "Please bear with me. I promise to make it up to you in the blimp ride." As Tachibana walked through the prison, his eyes glanced around the empty cells. Most were technically empty, but the human bones in them showed clearly why they were empty. Tachibana felt a shiver go down his spine upon seeing just how cruel the current ruler would have to be to treat people like this. Starving people to death in cells that drop down to freezing temperatures. "How kind. Don't be so scared, old man. Those skeletons won't do anything to you. They're from people that have been long dead." Tachibana only nodded and didn't speak much. Soon they arrived in front of a cell that contained Coyuki. Her eyes had turned stone cold and she looked at her visitors with absolute indifference. Tachibana was about to speak, pretending to be an eager old man waiting for an autograph, but the guard spoke first. "Thunk." The guard banged his baton on the metal rods of the cell before speaking. unless you want me to rough you up, you'll give this old man your autograph. N. Thunk asterisk thunk. Koyuki's eyes turned frigid. Do you think you have an option? That wasn't a request. You'll do as I say or you'll forget about sitting here unharmed. The guard and Koyuki stared at each other, with neither backing out as they looked like they wanted to kill each other until Tachibana interrupted. Fujika-sama, could I please get your autograph? Cough cough, my grandson is your fan. Cough cough, and given how long my lungs will last, cough cough, I want to fulfill at least one of his wishes before I'm gone. Koyuki looked at Tachibana, her eyes softening a bit as she saw the paper and pen in Tachibana's trembling hands. She looked at the guard once again before looking at Tachibana and nodding, all right. Could you tell me his name? Meiru. Tachibana said with a soft smile as he walked closer to the prison cell and handed Koyuki the paper and pen he was holding. After getting the paper and pen back from Koyuki, Tachibana turned to the guard and gave him a big smile before giving him a warm hug. Thank you very much, mister. Just as the guard tried to get out of Tachibana's hug, there was a sudden muffled crack before the guard dropped to the ground, having lost control over his legs. And before the guard could even open his mouth or scream, Tachibana's hands moved to his neck and snapped it with force. The guard only looked on with shock as the last thing he saw were Tachibana's hands, which had gotten free from the handcuffs he'd tied around his wrist so securely, courtesy his flexible bones. Koyuki only stared at the old man who'd suddenly gained so much vitality with shock before watching him pull out a key from the guard's pockets to open the prison gate. Gonna stay inside for the rest of your life, Koyuki-sama? Tachibana asked with a smile after dispelling his transformation jutsu to reveal his face. Koyuki still remained stunned, until Tachibana grabbed her hand and forcefully picked her up like a sack of potatoes onto his shoulder. Ah. What are you doing? Put me down, you brute. I thought you wanted to be carried with how you were sitting like a statue. Tachibana joked while putting her down. How did you get here? I thought you died during that explosion. Well, turns out I'm hard to kill. What you saw falling down was my clone. Either way, we need to escape now. And on our way out, we need to assassinate all the shinobi working under Dodo. Shouldn't you have done it the other way round? Assassinate everyone and then come get me? No, there are too many problems with that. They could simply use you as a hostage to stop me. Either way, I need your help. You know the castle better than me. I'm sure you'll know where everyone is. So we can do everything faster this way. Are you sure? Yep, I'm positive. All we need to do is assassinate as many shinobi as possible and then we can join back with Yamato-sensei and the rest of Team 7. I'm sure they're already on their way to attack the castle to protect or save me and you. Koyuki closed her eyes, took a few deep breaths to calm herself, and once she was satisfied with Tachibana's explanation she spoke quickly, all right, I'll guide you around. Good. Let's leave from here then. How are we going to leave? Koyuki asked politely since they couldn't go back the way they'd just come because the guard would obviously stop them and alert everyone. Simple. We walk on the walls outside. Tachibana said with a smile and dragged Koyuki to a window. Letting Koyuki onto his back, Tachibana began to climb the castle walls by sticking to them with the help of chakra on the soles of his feet. Where do you want me to point you towards? Preferably towards the area the guards are probably bathing in. Huh, why? They'll have to come out of their special armor to take a bath. That's when they'll be at their weakest. We can steal the armor and also kill them in the process. Koyuki's eyes narrowed and she nodded. All right. Under her guidance, Tachibana carefully walked around the castle walls, making sure to avoid windows before they came across a peculiar window which was slightly open to allow a sliver of steam to escape outside. Is this it? Tachibana asked Koyuki in a whisper. Yes. The steam means there's someone currently inside. Koyuki replied similarly. Is there a window nearby that leads to the clothes changing room? Yes, that one. Tachibana followed Koyuki's directions and soon broke through a window that led to a locker room. Tachibana checked the various baskets on the shelves and found 2 baskets with the armor he was looking for. Got it. Tachibana smiled. Now what? Koyuki asked. Now we hide outside for a while until either of the two people arrive in this place. Then we assassinate them and hide their bodies." Koyuki frowned but didn't say anything. She only nodded and then with Tachibana hid on the window ledge while patiently waiting for either of the two people to come back from their bath. But before any of the two shinobi came out of the bath, something else happened. Shit. Tachibana cursed. Tachibana ducked on the ledge along with Koyuki as he peered over the edge to see the reaction of the two shinobi who rushed out of the bathrooms wearing towels. "Why the alarm?" Koyuki asked in a whisper, but Tachibana interrupted her before she finished. "Because the other guard probably got suspicious." The shinobi who just walked out of the bathrooms acknowledged each other's presence before walking up to their clothes basket where they'd deposited their armor. Just as they pulled out their baskets, Tachibana threw at them 4 kunai with explosive tags attached. The shinobi immediately detected the kunai, but with nothing to protect themselves from it, they were blown to smithereens. A loud explosion filled the palace and Tachibana ducked behind the window with Koyuki as they took cover from the hot gases that flew above their heads. Once the explosion died down, Tachibana confirmed the deaths of the two shinobi and picked up Koyuki before rushing along the castle walls. "Which place would be the safest here, Koyuki-sama?" Tachibana asked in a hurry, causing Koyuki to frown for a few seconds before she replied. "The treasury. It takes a long time to open from the outside. But there is a secret pathway that allows one to enter the treasury that is hard to find. If no one else knows of the secret pathway, then we will be pretty safe in there." Tachibana nodded and started to follow Koyuki's directions when his vision shifted and he saw a grappling hook fly out of one of the windows and pierce his stomach and grab him. Tachibana jumped backwards but tossed a kunai with an explosion tag on it at the exact spot where the grappling hook aimed to ambush them. BB boom mmmmmmmmmmmm. Another explosion went off and Tachibana barely managed to keep his footing on the icy castle walls as he used his spirit vision to scout for his opponent. Digging his shinobi pouch for a few shurikens, Tachibana launched them through the smoke in hopes that they would damage their enemy. Ting tung ting. Hearing the shuriken do nothing against the armor that protected the shinobi, Tachibana immediately used the transformation jutsu to change his appearance. The smoke soon cleared and revealed to both parties each other's identities. "I didn't expect to see you here, Yamato. But I guess we'll be finishing our match from earlier, won't we?" "Nader." Tachibana spoke with distaste. "Damn, did it have to be the strongest one of them all? At least it isn't Dodo. Now how do I run away from here?" Tachibana didn't get much time to think since Nader started to weave hand seals almost immediately. Ice release. Snowflake forest. The ice on the surface of the castle walls cracked, speeding towards Tachibana as it started to grow out small spiky protrusions that only grew with the distance they traveled. "Is that all?" Tachibana taunted as he threw across 4 simple kunai. "Haha, really? You're using wire kunai. What happened to your wood-style jutsus? Run out of chakra already." Nader simply blocked all the kunai with the armor covering his hands. He wrapped the wire attached to the kunai with his gloved hands and pulled on it to drag Tachibana directly into the growing spikes of ice that were moving towards him. As soon as he pulled the wire, however, he suddenly felt a lack of resistance from Tachibana. And when he looked at him, Tachibana had stopped sticking to the wall with chakra. Hanging from Nader with the help of the kunai and wire, Tachibana swung along with Koyuki, aiming for a window on another floor of the castle. By the time Nader understood Tachibana's plan, it was already too late. He tried to pull back the wire to misdirect Tachibana's trajectory so he couldn't reach the window, but as soon as Nader pulled the wire back, Tachibana let it go and stuck his feet to the castle wall once again and slipped into the window while sliding on the icy walls. You're not Yamato, are you?" Nader shouted as he broke into a frantic rush to capture Tachibana and Koyuki, except as soon as he entered the window, Tachibana had already applied explosive seals to blow up behind him and destroy the room. While it wouldn't kill Nader, it would at least delay him long enough for them to escape. And that's what happened. Nader immediately activated the pink shield to block the explosive flames while Tachibana exited the room along with Koyuki, following her directions to rush to a secret spot in the castle where they could stay until help arrived. Tachibana rushed through the corridors without stopping for guards and such depending on how Koyuki directed him. Eventually, after using a paper clone to send people in a different direction than they were going, Tachibana and Koyuki arrived at a dead end. Where to from here? Tachibana asked softly, his breath unsteady since he had been running all this time with Koyuki on his back. Hold that scone. That'll allow us to flip this wall. Tachibana nodded and moved towards a gold candlestick that was mounted on the wall and pulled it down. Sounds of gears turning around echoed through the corridor, causing Tachibana to panic. It's so loud. Koyuki bit her lips but didn't reply. Instead, she looked behind herself towards the other end of the corridor from where she heard several muffled noises and footsteps of people coming to them. The noises stopped in a few seconds and Tachibana quickly pushed the wall and entered the secret pathway behind it before the wall sealed itself once again. The space behind the wall was well lit with a halogen light bulb connected by a string of wires and other regularly placed bulbs. Koyuki finally got off Tachibana's back and leaned on the wall, placing her ear to see if there was anyone else on the other side who might have seen where they'd escaped. Tachibana stayed silent and let Koyuki play detective. After a few minutes, when nothing happened and everything seemed alright, Tachibana collapsed onto the floor panting deeply as he tried to fill his burning lungs with oxygen. Taking her time, Koyuki collapsed on the floor too while making sure they didn't make too much noise. When will your teammates arrive? Koyuki finally asked. They should be here in another couple of hours. The blimp came here in about 5 or 6 hours, so they should be here in 10. I understand. By the way, why did Dodo let you live? Why didn't he just take the key and toss you out of the blimp to your death? Koyuki shook her head. The plan to trick him with a fake didn't work. He immediately noticed that the one I had on me wasn't the original. Is there something special about the original? I dunno. My father only gifted it to me saying that it would help me bring spring to the land of snow. I see, Tachibana nodded. Bring spring to the land of snow. Was this guy really just a crazy dude or something? You're thinking if he was crazy, aren't you? Koyuki said with a sad sigh while holding her knees. I mean, I get it, who would believe there'd ever be spring in a country that is called the land of snow? Tachibana shook his head and stood up. Let's go to the treasury. It's probably safer in there anyway. Koyuki nodded and they left the spot from where they'd entered, walking deep into the well-lit tunnel as they made their way to the treasury. The stone wall flipped slowly as Tachibana along with Koyuki walked into the treasury through a secret door. It's mostly empty, Tachibana pointed out the obvious as they looked at the treasury, which only had a small pile of money stored in steel cupboards. I don't remember us being this poor, Koyuki argued as she looked around for something they might have missed. Is there any other secret room in the treasury where they could have hidden the money? No. Tachibana leisurely walked to an expensive-looking golden chair and sat down on it. I guess then we just wait here until Yamato-sensei and the rest of my team arrive here looking for you. Koyuki still couldn't believe the mostly empty treasury, but she sat down on a similar chair too. For the first half hour, Tachibana passed the time speaking with Koyuki, but when they ran out of topics and words, he walked up to some of the shelves and began studying the scrolls stored in them. These scrolls are old, do you recognize any of them? Tachibana asked out of curiosity. They contain various designs of random inventions. This one here is of a disposable sword that cuts using vibration, and this other one is of a steam train. Koyuki walked up to Tachibana and looked at the scrolls along with him. My father used to design all these. He said the future of the land of snow was buried in such trinkets. Trinkets. I hardly think they're useless. They'd probably sell for a lot in the shinobi world. Even the other daimyos would pay a lot to have a steam train in their land. Imagine being able to move around the country in a matter of hours instead of days or even weeks. Koyuki frowned when she heard that, but she didn't say anything else. Tachibana left her with those scrolls he'd just opened and started scanning around through the other scrolls. They all gave him a decent idea about Koyuki's dad. He was an inventor. He's made quite a lot of things and studied a lot of natural phenomena. But what takes the cake is his work on combining chakra with machinery. There were several chakra tech machines designed in the scrolls that Tachibana studied. There were several types of items, but most could be divided as combat items versus utility items. There were the standard flashbangs, grenades and such, but what caught Tachibana's eyes were the jutsu bombs. Jutsu bombs looked simple since they essentially performed a simple task. Once set alight and exploded, the bombs would explode into the jutsu that was condensed into it. But they were deceptively difficult to make. One had to first know how to perform the jutsu they wanted to compress, and then a complex sealing array was used to compress the entire jutsu into an ice pearl so that it could be activated at any time. Did he rediscover the Uzumaki sealing technique for making jutsu scrolls? This was probably how those giant ice spike bombs were made when they were dropped from the blimp. Other than scrolls on jutsu bombs, there were other things like storage scrolls that could store liquid items by automatically freezing them using ice release, a seal that could be used to enhance chakra control for specific jutsus, which came at the cost of disallowing you from using other jutsu. Tachibana felt like he'd stepped into a vast gold mine of knowledge and wisdom. Inspecting various scrolls, Tachibana eventually came across the scroll that explained the chakra armors in detail. I guess Dodo based his chakra armor on these designs. Then maybe he really discovered or invented a way to turn the land of snow into the land of spring. No, that still seems a bit too far-fetched. Tachibana studied the scroll for a while, and although much of the sealing techniques used in it went over his head, he did understand one of the key points in it. The chakra extractor is detachable, and it's quite easy to do. It's probably so easy because the chakra extractors might break from overuse or other malfunctions, which probably requires them to be replaced by low-level technicians. If I can remove the chakra extractors from the two chakra armors and then activate the pink shield on them, I can use them as portable shields. Tachibana immediately extracted one of the chakra armors and began to work on separating the chakra extractor in it. It took him half an hour on the first try, but he eventually got it out. What are you doing? Koyuki asked with confusion, since to her it appeared that Tachibana was destroying perfectly good armors. Look, Tachibana said excitedly as he used the chakra that had already been filled into it by its previous owner to activate a pink shield around himself. Oh, that's interesting, Koyuki nodded. Interesting. With this, I can probably take on Nadare on my own. Are we going to fight him now? Koyuki asked with worry. No, why would I fight him alone when I just have to wait for Yamato-sensei to show up? Koyuki nodded and went back to strolling around the treasury, searching for random things from her childhood. Eventually, she came to a stop in front of 3 large mirrors. My father used to spend most of his time working on these mirrors. I faintly remember he used to say that these mirrors were going to change the future of the land of snow. Koyuki said unprompted, causing Tachibana to shift his attention to her from the armor. Tachibana walked to Koyuki and peered at the mirrors with a frown. What's this? I dunno. I only remember looking at it whenever I visited him in his workshop. Koyuki explained calmly. A mirror. The future of the land of snow. Tachibana said with wonder as his fingers traced the seals on the mirrors. Heating seals. Absorption seals. Why would simple heating seals make this the future of the land of snow? What was it, solar cooker that could heat and make instant ramen in it or something? Tachibana asked more so as a joke, but something suddenly caught his eye. The seals on the floor. Noticing Tachibana's sudden startled expression, Koyuki looked at him with a slight frown. I know my dad might have been crazy, but he was still my father. It's not funny to make fun of dead peep. I know. I'm not making fun of your dad. I was just pointing out why he thought this would revolutionize the land of snow. Huh, what? Look at the seals on the floor. Don't they remind you of something? Koyuki looked at the seals that looked more like hieroglyphs to her than anything else. I can't understand them. No, not the seals themselves. Look at how they are arranged. Koyuki paid attention to the structure of the seals again, and after a few seconds, her eyes widened. The castle. They're arranged in the shape of the castle. Yes, I'm practically sure he had something ridiculous planned to heat the entire valley the castle is built above. Quote. Koyuki and Tachibana fell silent after that. Neither believed that Koyuki's dad actually had something backing up his claims, and now they didn't know how to react. What do you think? Koyuki asked softly. I think the hex crystal key isn't just a key, it is probably some important component of the entire system that unlocks or kickstarts this madness. So Dodo only wants good for the people of the land of snow? Koyuki asked with an unwilling expression. I don't know. Maybe he thinks the key leads to gold or something. Since the treasury is mostly empty. Perhaps he spent most of his funds to make the chakra armors and now lacks money. Koyuki frowned, and then Tachibana spoke. Let me divine about it. With the topaz pendulum spinning clockwise proving the confirmation of Dodo's misunderstanding, Tachibana looked at Koyuki. What do you think we should do? Koyuki had a frown on her face before she spoke. I don't know. But I think it is safer for us to bring the hex crystal key to this place ourselves. What if Dodo breaks or damages it in anger once he learns of the true nature of the treasure? Alright, then we'll wait for Yamato-sensei here. And once he is here, I'll bring the hex crystal key here for you to do whatever it does here. You don't know where the key goes. I mean, it's not like you can see a lock here, can you? Koyuki looked around the mirrors and then at the floor, but she couldn't find a spot in the area to place the key. Perhaps the key is meant to be used somewhere else. Koyuki offered her suggestion. I dunno. We'll have enough time to figure it out once Dodo is defeated anyway. Tachibana reasoned. Okay. Boom The entire castle suddenly shook, and Tachibana and Koyuki found themselves using the large mirrors to stay steady on their feet. What was that? Koyuki asked with worry. I think it's Yamato-sensei. He's probably here and is fighting Dodo, maybe. Let me check using divination so that we can go meet him if that's the case. We could probably use the chakra absorption devices I've separated to defeat them anyway. Koyuki nodded, and Tachibana quickly used his topaz pendulum to perform another divination. Yamato-sensei is fighting Dodo and Team 7 is also here. Tachibana repeated the sentence 7 times and opened his eyes to see the result. The pendulum was spinning clockwise rapidly. I'll go and bring Yamato-sensei here. I hope you can be safe and stay hidden. Don't let anyone get to you and use you as a hostage. Tachibana said, walking to the wall they'd come in from and pushing it open. Koyuki nodded, and giving her one last glance, Tachibana exited the treasury, rushing back through the dimly lit corridor as he attempted to reach the place where the fight was going on. It didn't take Tachibana as long as it had taken to get here, since he wasn't carrying Koyuki on his back anymore, and he quickly exited from the other secret entrance. Then, simply following the noise, Tachibana arrived at the king's hall. As soon as Tachibana entered the hall, he felt a breeze of cold air rush past his neck, sending goosebumps all over his arms. Timing a well-placed dodge, Tachibana ducked low under a frozen branch that flew over his head and pierced into the castle wall. Looking up, Tachibana saw a wild scene. Dodo was fighting Yamato in the middle of a frozen forest, while Team 7 was fighting Nadare in the same forest. Dodo and Yamato's fight was too fast for Tachibana to see anything. While Nadare's fight against Team 7 was slow enough for Tachibana to see that Sasuke was acting as the tank with his Sharingan, while Naruto and Sakura worked to damage and disable his chakra armor. With the opportunity to land a surprise attack on either Dodo or Nadare, Tachibana chose Nadare because he'd probably get killed if he made even a slight mistake in between Dodo and Yamato's fast-paced attacks, possibly even becoming a hindrance for Yamato. So, hiding his presence among the tall trees, Tachibana began to unhurriedly observe the battle between Nadare and Team 7. Naruto was using his pink shield to constantly try and force Nadare into a situation where he would have to use his own shield to counter, but Nadare was clever and kept dodging Naruto, knowing that if he allowed the shields to touch each other his armor would become useless. Sakura was helping by constantly trapping Nadare in genjutsu since the shield couldn't stop that. Eventually arriving behind Nadare, Tachibana signaled to Sasuke about his presence, who managed to keep the surprise on his face away and continue assisting Naruto and Sakura by interrupting all of Nadare's jutsu with the help of his wire kunai. "Give it up, brat. You won't be able to defeat me at all. You're newbies and can't do much else other than delay your inevitable death," Nadare shouted as Naruto rushed at him for the umpteenth time with his pink shield activated so that Nadare would have to dodge instead of use his jutsu. "And your annoying genjutsu. Why do you even try when you clearly know I can see through them like a fish in water?" Tachibana slowly walked closer and closer from behind as all of Team 7 upped the rate of their attacks thanks to Sasuke doing his all to make Nadare pay attention to him instead of Tachibana. As Tachibana came closer, Sakura also seemed to have sensed him since she started to use the most useless genjutsus just to keep Nadare guessing if what he was seeing was a genjutsu or reality. She made him see things like extra kunai flying at him, which Sasuke sometimes followed with real kunai flying at his head, and other times she worked on showing him Yamato defeating Dodo, which for the first few times impacted his morale but by the end became something annoying that he just had to constantly deal with. Finally, Tachibana arrived close enough undetected that he performed the body flicker jutsu. "Now Naruto. Attack his shield," Sasuke shouted as soon as he saw Tachibana use the body flicker jutsu. He himself formed hand seals to launch the great fireball jutsu. Sakura wasn't behind since she used her genjutsu to suddenly show Nadare that instead of a giant fireball what was flying towards him were a bunch of furry cats. The sudden zeal in Team 7's attack left Nadare feeling a little uncomfortable, but being a Jonin he easily thwarted their plans. As soon as Naruto jumped towards him, Nadare quickly formed an ice clone and pushed it his way so that he would be left to fight it. Then using the body flicker jutsu he stepped back while performing more hand seals to spit out an ice ball that countered Sasuke's fireball. Sakura trapped him in a new genjutsu with kunai flying at him, but he ignored it in favor of listening to his instincts, which asked him to turn around. Nadare listened to this small sense of danger and activated his pink shield as he turned around. Tachibana didn't stop his attack in spite of Nadare's sudden turn to look at him, but pushed through with the 2 chakra extraction devices he had stolen, which he used to activate 2 pink shields at their full power. Not having expected Tachibana to have 2 pink shields, Nadare was taken aback as the 3 shields collided. But true to the Jonin he was, Nadare instantly adapted. His pink shield flickered off and Tachibana was left hanging in the air as his own 2 shields collided with each other. Nadare instantly formed more hand seals, and, "Haha, you thought it was so easy to kill a Jonin. Who was your teacher? Kakashi. He would be the only one stupid enough to use such a silly strategy against." Nadare started, but before he could end a kunai passed straight through his neck. Using the single moment Nadare deactivated the pink shield to avoid letting it get damaged by Tachibana's advances, Sakura stabbed him with a real kunai while he was still under the effect of her genjutsu from the other kunai flying towards him. Cough wah cough. Nadare tried to speak and he looked at Sakura out of the corner of his eyes, but before he could speak or say anything through his blood-filled mouth, Sakura drove the kunai deeper and sliced off his entire head. Tachibana looked at the dying man as a few words came to his mind. The mantis stalks the cicada unaware of the oriole behind. That wasn't the last of Nadare, however. Almost as soon as his head rolled onto the floor, they heard a weird sizzle from the distance. Tachibana was the first to react and he tossed one of the pink shields he was holding towards Sakura. Naruto, already inside his shield, had wide eyes as he looked at what was happening. While Sakura looked on at Sasuke in shock. "Buick!" Tachibana shouted at Sasuke, who did his best to respond, but it wasn't enough. B B B B B B boom M M M M M M M M M M M M M M M M M M M M M M M. The ice clone that Nader had made to distract Naruto exploded into a flash of ice needles, launching each one at a high speed as they flooded the area. Tachibana and Sakura poured all the chakra they could into their devices to keep the pink shield powered up, while Naruto, who was closest to the explosion, ducked and braced to protect his vitals. Sasuke was the only one unlucky enough to be hit with the full force of the explosion. The resulting shockwave lifted Sasuke and threw him off his feet as a barrage of needles exploded in his way. The worst part of all this was that Sasuke had his Sharingan activated. He watched in slow motion as the world around him was slowly destroyed. The snow and trees that had formed as a result of Yamato's battle with Dodo were blown into smithereens as thousands upon thousands of ice needles exploded through them. The pink shield around Sakura broke first, followed by Tachibana's, as they were both riddled by the next wave of those ice needles. But Sasuke had it the worst. His entire body had several ice needles sticking out of it. He looked like a hedgehog bristling its quills. As soon as the explosion passed over them, Sakura was the first to move in spite of the enormous pain she was feeling from the needles in her body. Tachibana and Naruto followed immediately after. "Sasuke-kun," Sakura said helplessly as she reached Sasuke and knelt beside him. Tachibana quickly began pulling out the needles that were not around any vital organs because the ice needles were slowly freezing him down. Sakura carefully moved Sasuke's hand, which was covering his face, and gasped in horror. Tachibana looked over to see if something had happened, and his hands froze as soon as his eyes lay on Sasuke's face, specifically on his eyes. One of Sasuke's eyeballs had been pierced with an ice needle. Sasuke's other eye was frantically spinning around as he tried to understand his situation, but when it rested on Sakura's face he became confused. What happened? No. Sasuke lifted his hand to touch the other side of his face, but Sakura stopped him by holding his hand. "No, Sasuke-kun. Hold on for now. I'm sure Yamato-sensei will be able to do something. Touching it will only make it worse." Sasuke frowned, not understanding what was going on. "Sasuke, don't worry, I'm sure Yamato-sensei will be able to heal you," Naruto shouted. Sasuke tried to look at Naruto and then found himself having to turn his neck to find him. That was when it struck him. My vision. Sasuke's eyeballs frantically scanned everything around and he realized he couldn't see anything on the left side of his face. His vision was much narrower than before. It had been split in half. Sasuke's hand slipped out of Sakura's grasp and tried to touch his eyes once again, and when his fingers brushed against the ice needle sticking out of his eye, his hands froze. My eyes. Sasuke felt like he had suddenly tasted a spoilt fruit. This is a dream, Sasuke complained in a futile manner. His hands brushed around his face once again as his hand touched the ice needle once again, sending a chilling pain all around his face. Sakura caught his hands to prevent it from becoming worse, but this time his hands didn't resist, they were weak and powerless. Sasuke suddenly felt like he was back in his home. Right when he'd been forced to live a nightmare because of Itachi. He felt like all his hope was being taken away from him rather cruelly. It felt like his body had given up on him. Tears formed in Sasuke's eyes and he found himself unable to speak. The sounds around him fell on deaf ears as he tried to desperately wake up. Not even the two giant ice dragons that showed up, towering over the gigantic trees of the forest, were enough to break him out of his shock. Not even the constant pain from Tachibana removing the ice needles from his body was enough to distract him. Naruto used his pink shield to protect them from the calamitous fight between Yamato and Dodo, who seemed to be duking it out without a care in the world for the genin who were under them. Eventually, however, a towering humanoid wooden golem showed up and trapped the two ice dragons. The towering wooden golem then trapped them under its arms and crushed them to death, before Dodo was finally killed after 5 of Yamato's wooden clones set a clever trap for him. The battle eventually ended and Yamato arrived by Team 7's side with a lot of bruises and frozen wounds. As soon as Yamato arrived by their side, everyone vacated the area around Sasuke and allowed Yamato to look at him. Sasuke's head turned as he looked at Yamato with the last bit of hope he had. His tears bordering the thin line on the edge of sanity and insanity. Yamato's eyes widened when he saw that one of Sasuke's eyes had been pierced by the ice needle and immediately tried to see if he could rescue it. But it was too late. The needle had been in there for too long and it had killed the eyeball by freezing and exploding its cells as the water in them expanded after being turned to ice. Don't take it so seriously. It's just an eye. There are much worse things to lose in battle. Wear it as a proud ornament. Yamato spoke to Sasuke. Sasuke's grief exploded at this moment and he was about to shout in pain, finally giving up to the world around him, but Yamato quickly knocked him out. When Tachibana gave him a questioning look, he spoke calmly. He might end up doing something that might hurt him even more if we don't control him for now. He needs urgent medical attention for the rest of the needles in his body. Good job removing the ice needles in the other parts of his body. If you hadn't, he would have lost his entire body because the blood would have frozen. Naruto and Sakura's tears didn't stop while Tachibana's eyes shifted to a glare. All of a sudden, defeating a Jonin didn't feel so great anymore. With Dodo done, Yamato was quickly able to gather the help of the medical shinobi of the castle and force them to heal Sasuke. He stayed there so that none of them would try to do anything stupid while the rest of Team 7 followed Tachibana to the treasury to fetch Koyuki. The Mantic stalks the cicada unaware of the Oriole behind. A Jonin is a tough opponent, even in death, especially in death. Any luck yet? Sakura asked Tachibana, who was helping her find where the hex crystal key would go. After retrieving Koyuki, Yamato praised Tachibana for keeping her safe. He then became busy handling the aftermath of the matters regarding them suddenly killing the ruling daimyo, Dodo. So to keep Team 7 busy, Yamato tasked Team 7 to search for the reason Dodo was looking for the hex crystal key. It was mostly to distract Sasuke from the pain of losing an eye after he woke up, but that didn't work well since with half his vision gone, Sasuke kept bumping into random things and making his own life harder. Eventually, Yamato assigned Naruto and Sasuke another mission, which was to spar with each other and train their taijutsu while Sakura and Tachibana searched for the lock that required the key. I don't understand these seals very well, probably only Yamato-sensei will be able to crack them. Tachibana explained as he was hunched over the strange seals in the treasury that represented Koyuki's father's grand plans for making the land of snow the land of spring. So we won't be able to find the lock that this thing goes into. Sakura said, studying the hex crystal that had a strange dark green fluid inside it. I have an idea, but I don't know if it will work. Tachibana said after some hesitation. Well, we might as well do whatever you thought of, cause there's nothing else to do here but stare at snow. Tachibana frowned and then looked at the vast and complicated ceiling arrays that had been drawn around the mirrors. It's these mirrors. What? If the seals use these mirrors, then if there is a large ceiling array around here somewhere, then there has got to be a place that has all these large mirrors. Oh, I get what you want to do. You want to triangulate the position of the center of the seals by using the position of the mirrors. Yes, but the problem is, we're surrounded by a mountain range. Precisely. If we want to find the large mirrors, then we need to be able to see where the mirrors actually are in the mountain range. Any plans on how to do that? Well, not exactly, which is why I'm a little hesitant. Is it something Naruto would think of doing? Yes. So you want to fly the blimp and get a high view from the top. Tachibana's head snapped in Sakura's direction and he almost fell when he saw her annoyed smirk. How did you? Well, never mind. Let's go and ask Yamato-sensei for permission then. Sure. Tachibana nodded, and soon after the duo found themselves up in the sky, riding a blimp while looking around at the vast mountains all around them. Sasuke, if I stood in front of a giant mirror, would I have a giant reflection? Naruto asked Sasuke, who was positively annoyed. Sasuke sent a sideway glance at Tachibana, who almost broke out into laughter, but somehow holding it back in. Tachibana walked up to Naruto and put his hand around his shoulder. Naruto, how would you search for the mirror? Naruto's brows furrowed as he focused, trying to think hard about the ways he would find a gigantic mirror. As Naruto spent time focusing on the problem, Sasuke, Sakura and Tachibana walked to 3 windows on 3 different sides of the blimp. Each genin took a look at a third of the mountain range surrounding the castle, and after about half an hour they hadn't found anything. There wasn't anything remotely reflective in the mountains. Well, not exactly, since the mountains were snow-clad, but there was nothing that sustained a proper reflection. That was when Naruto came up with a different idea. Since there have to be large mirrors, wouldn't the people who built them have destroyed that part of the mountain? What if we look for areas without trees, since no tall trees would have grown in that area so soon? The trio looked at Naruto with widened eyes and quite a bit of shock, but they quickly set it aside and scanned the mountain range once again, and almost at the same time, they all shouted, "Found mine, it!" The trio looked at each other and traced their directions, eventually coming to a single point. "That's it?" Sakura asked with confusion when they saw that the intersection of their three directions was the castle spire. "I don't know. We'll only know once we take a closer look," Tachibana said with a shrug. The blimp landed after a while, and the entirety of Team 7 walked up the castle wall and started running to the spire. Tachibana was the first to reach the spire thanks to the body flicker jutsu, but once he got there he looked confused. "It's just an ordinary spire," Sakura said once she arrived. Not one to give up, Naruto walked closer to the spiky ornament and poked it. "It doesn't move." Sasuke also looked at the spire with his Sharingan and found nothing notable about it. Tachibana frowned as he looked carefully around the spire and then around the roof they were standing on. Finally Tachibana noticed a pattern and his eyes widened. "Naruto, go stand there," Tachibana said, pointing to a ridge in the roof tiles. "Sasuke, you go on that one." And then Tachibana himself moved to the third ridge. Each ridge was aligned with one of the mirrors in the mountains, and as soon as Tachibana stepped onto his, he shouted, "Pour your chakra into the ridges." Naruto and Sasuke did as told and started to pour their chakra. But surprisingly, instead of just dissipating into the air, the chakra from their bodies was being steadily absorbed, as if something was greedily sucking it away. Click asterisk CRANNNKKKK asterisk click asterisk CCRRRAANNNKKKK. Finally, after a few seconds of noises emerging from under their feet, the spire split open to reveal a hexagonal hole in its center. "The hex crystal goes here?" Sakura asked carefully while looking at it. Tachibana nodded, and Sakura slowly and carefully placed the hex crystal into the slot. Nothing happened for about a minute, and just when Team 7 was about to give up waiting, they heard a loud asterisk GGRRRRROOOOAAAANNNNNNNNNNNNN. The sound came from the mountain ranges, specifically from the three mirrors. As everyone inside the castle rushed out when they heard these sounds, they all saw the large swaths of snow and ice that had been covering the mirrors started to fall. There was an avalanche. "Tachibana, the snow is falling towards the valley," Naruto shouted in a panicked state. "Don't worry, I'm sure Yamato-sensei will save us," Tachibana shouted. "Don't move from your spot and keep providing the chakra. I don't want to mess this up by stopping halfway." Although Naruto and the rest of Team 7 were worried, they didn't move from their spots. Yamato soon exited the castle and reached the top, where he sensed his cute genins were standing. "What are you doing?" Yamato asked, bewildered, since he spotted the absolutely large chunks of snow that were rolling down the mountains. "We found out how to use the hex crystal." "No time to explain. Could you please protect the castle from the snow?" "Yamato-sensei, protect us. I don't want to be buried in snow," Naruto shouted comically with snot and tears running down his face. Yamato looked at them and finally calmed his emotions before he used the body flicker jutsu and vanished. "He abandoned us," Naruto shouted, feeling betrayed. But then they all saw several shinobi fly out the windows of the castle as they rushed towards the borders of the valley. "I guess not," Tachibana said, unsure of Yamato's plan. "Maybe he wants them to create an ice wall or something." The shinobi did exactly as Tachibana expected them to do and quickly formed a giant protective ring around the castle as they all formed hand seals and slammed them into the ground. Multiple layers of ice walls showed up around the castle as they all quickly absorbed the surrounding snow to grow into a towering wall that was enough to face the incoming avalanche head-on without shattering. The growing rumble that threatened to crush the castle started to quieten down and the avalanche slowly stopped moving after the first wave of snow crashed into the ice walls. Naruto watched with fear as the snowy mist that had spread everywhere slowly cleared to reveal 3 gigantic shiny mirrors. The mirrors weren't made of glass or silver. Hence why no one ever knew they were made and installed along the faces of such large mountains. The mirrors were just modified ice walls but on a terribly large scale. Not many people understood how they were made, but almost everyone in the castle instantly understood what they were meant for. Simply standing atop the castle, the 4 genin of Team 7 felt the temperature around them go up by a few degrees. I guess we can stop pouring our chakra now that the walls are made. I don't think they need chakra to be sustained, Tachibana said as he stepped off the ridge he was standing on himself. Naruto and Sasuke followed soon after, but they looked much better than Tachibana since they had a lot more chakra than him. Is this what my dad wanted to do for the country? Tachibana heard Koyuki from beside him. It seemed like Yamato had brought her up here at her request. I think so. He probably wanted to turn the valley around the castle into the land of spring. I see. Koyuki nodded. There were tears in her eyes, so no one said anything else, and for that day, everyone just waited by the windows they were near to watch for the first time in the land of snow, the snow melt and reveal the land underneath. The ground underneath was mostly barren with small tufts of dry grass that was frozen probably some millennia ago, emerging after a long time, but everyone still enjoyed the event. You should turn this day into the official founding day of the land of spring. Tachibana joked, but the idea set off a spark in Koyuki's heart. That is a nice idea, a new name for a new country. The days after that passed fast. The ice wall was deactivated by simply removing the hex crystal key because several preparations needed to be made before the castle was equipped for much hotter temperatures. Within 2 more weeks, an official celebration was launched for Koyuki to take the seat as the new head of the land of snow. Several neighboring daimyos were invited and a representative from Konoha had also shown up. The party went well and Team 7 got a commemorative photo with an autograph from Koyuki. Koyuki hadn't given up on her acting, so the second Princess Gale movie was shot in the land of snow, which had now been renamed to the land of spring after the ice mirrors had been revealed at the official coronation ceremony. Tachibana looked at the large number of people that had gathered to watch Koyuki's coronation. He'd visited the Kato's burial earlier during the week and had asked Koyuki to help take care of his family since he used the old man to infiltrate the palace even though he didn't have long left. Tachibana had remained hidden and didn't show himself at the burial so as to not cause any ruckus, but he was there only to make sure everything proceeded smoothly without any troubles. And so Team 7 finally finished the mission they had been assigned directly by the Hokage. An A-class mission that very few people would have completed so soon after graduating from the academy. You've all done well, Hiruzen said with a soft smile on his face. Especially you, Sasuke-kun. The will of fire truly burns with the sacrifices you make to keep our name high. Sasuke looked unhappy, but what else could he do but smile awkwardly and nod. Yamato-sensei sent him a report about our mission earlier. Tachibana guessed since they'd directly come to the Hokage office as soon as they entered the village walls. Makes sense since there was a representative of Konoha at the coronation ceremony. So this mission was to acquire the loyalty of the land of snow and their technologies. That was probably why Yamato didn't take us back to the village when Koyuki's true identity as the princess of the land of snow was revealed. Eventually the Hokage praised everyone on the team one by one, and then asked them all, as a reward for completing this mission so perfectly, what would you all like as a reward? Sasuke was the first to speak. But Hiruzen interrupted, don't worry Sasuke-kun, we'll speak after a little bit. Then he turned to Naruto first. Make me the Hokage. Hiruzen gave an awkward smile before softly changing his reward. You can learn any C-rank jutsu you wish. Then he turned towards Sakura. I would like to be taught medical ninjutsu. Hiruzen's eyes lit up. He sat up a little straighter and asked, may I know why you want to learn medical ninjutsu? I want to be able to heal my teammates when they're in danger so that, so that things that happened this time will never happen again. Hiruzen smiled warmly, nodded and informed her, for the next 2 months Haruno-chan can study medical ninjutsu at the Konoha hospital. We will sort out the personnel later. But you have my word. Sakura's shoulders relaxed a bit and a soft smile came upon her face. Hiruzen finally turned towards Tachibana. I want to take part in researching jutsus and learning sealing. Tachibana wished for 2 things, but it was more of an attempt to get his ability to study sealing passed, since Hiruzen was probably going to reject his request to research jutsus. He did it because he wanted to be able to use his sealing knowledge in public combat. He wanted to develop the persona that all the weird techniques he was going to gain as a Byander came from his research on seals and the like. Hiruzen smiled and calmly responded, while you are not yet capable of researching jutsus, I will have Yamato teach you about sealing so that you can get some basics sorted out first. Once your foundations are set, we can later look at jutsu research, is that alright? Tachibana nodded and Team 7 finally left the room, with Yamato and Sasuke staying back. Hiruzen finally looked at Sasuke and spoke seriously. Sasuke-kun, did you know Kakashi's epithet? Kakashi of the Sharingan. Sasuke immediately responded. Hiruzen nodded and then pulled out a scroll from his desk. This is a storage scroll. An important one at that. Do you know why? Although Sasuke was a child, he wasn't stupid enough that he couldn't immediately connect the dots. His eyes widened and his hands trembled a little. Hiruzen noticed all this and spoke kindly. I hope you realize that this eye has seen terrible things, but simultaneously it also shows the hope that one day those terrible things become manure at the roots to energize the tree of the village so that the will of fire can burn brighter. I hope you can carry on the will of fire that Kakashi had nurtured. Laying on his back on his fragrant bed, Tachibana looked at the system screen hovering in front of him. Digestion. 69%. All that and I only got 69%. Just because the host uses abilities of the magician sequence does not mean the host acted as a magician. Closing square bracket. Then how did I even digest that 69%? Because the host, surprised, the Jonin he killed while pulling off a disappearing act on the glacier, that gave host 20% digestion. Closing square bracket. And the rest of the 49%. Because the host surprised Nader to kill him, which granted the host another 10% since Nader caught onto your plan. But the host was able to perform a magic trick that turned land of snow into land of spring, which in total gave the host 39% digestion. Closing square bracket. Sigh, I understand. The host has still not used spirit messenger summoning contracts. Closing square bracket. Tachibana looked at the last statement and thought about it for a while before he pulled out a single contract scroll. The scroll was made out of dried and treated animal skin, which gave it a leathery feel that eked out Tachibana for a few minutes. Let's see what's written on it. I took a simple glance at it earlier, but I didn't check out the details. Spirit messenger contract. The members that sign this contract after verifying it will be called Party A and Party B. Party A is the human that will sign the contract to subordinate Party B to perform the following tasks. Non-negotiable. Party B will be responsible for traveling through the spirit world and delivering messages in the form of letters and parcels that Party A wants to deliver for a decided price and for a reasonable amount of danger. Party B cannot disclose matters regarding this contract or deal to anyone else regardless of the means used. If done, Party B will be incinerated out of existence, even after the contract expires. Party B cannot harm Party A until the duration of the contract regardless of the means involved. If done, Party B will be incinerated out of existence. Negotiable. Party B will protect Party A when called upon for a negotiable price. Party B will sacrifice itself for Party A when ordered. Notice. The contract will only be valid for the amount of time Party A and Party B both decide to abide by it before signing this contract. Party A and Party B can negotiate the contract at any point in time as long as both are open to negotiation. Party B can never reject a mission from Party A if it follows all non-negotiable rules made before signing the contract. Party A Party B. Signature. After reading the contract thoroughly for a few times, Tachibana asked the system a simple question. Is this the Lotm spirit world? Number. The spirit world mentioned in this world has been appropriated to the spirit world of this universe. Closing square bracket. There's a spirit world in this world too. Why don't I know that? Was it in another filler arc or something? Number. The spirit world of this universe is also known as Pure Land. Closing square bracket. Huh, wait a second, you mean I'll be signing a contract with Shinobi? Not animals or spirit creatures. The host is right. The host will be signing contracts with Shinobi. But the host need not fear, the contractee will never be able to reveal the relation between the host and the Shinobi. Closing square bracket. If the spirit decides not to sign a contract, they will forget the entire event as if it were a dream in their vast time of non-existence. Closing square bracket. That is good to know, but what I'm worried about is enslaving the spirit that chooses to sign a contract with me. More than that, what if a spirit uses genjutsu or some other means to make me sign a contract that will harm me? The host need not worry about such things. Party A and Party B can only sign a contract when they are both completely free of all illusions and are seeing the exact same contract without any tricks involved. Closing square bracket. I see, thank you for letting me know. Tachibana thought about any other loopholes for a few more minutes, but trusting that the system wouldn't sabotage him, he soon stopped and set up an altar in the room with a single candle on it. System, would you happen to have a way for me to perform the ritual? Do I have to speak in Hermes or will it work if I simply speak it in Japanese? Host can directly speak in Japanese, the contractable spirits will all be notified of the ritual. Here are the steps for the host to perform the ritual. Closing square bracket. Opening square bracket. 1. Light up the candle in front of the altar with your spirituality. 2. Speak the following lines. I summon in my name the spirit that wanders about the unfounded, the higher dimensional creature that a human orders, the messenger that can form a contract with. 3. Line 3 can be changed to something else as long as it points to a spirit friendly to the host, like the friendly creature that can use the Sharingan, or the friendly creature that can use ice release. Closing square bracket. Alright, I understand, but who should I call? If it's going to be a shinobi, and since I have dual natures fire and lightning, should I call a shinobi that's a master of fire release? So that I can learn from them in secret. What about sealing? That would be easier to learn if I had a teacher. Well, nothing wrong in trying it out since the system is going to give me infinite chances. Tachibana nodded and then took out a bit of his spirituality to light up the candle. Perceiving the unique flame that lit up on the candle's tip, Tachibana became a little entranced. Even though this was the first time he'd used his spirituality to light up a candle, Tachibana could feel the unique dimension in it that connected to the beyond. It felt like something within it was calling him. Shaking his head, Tachibana got out of the trance and started to speak calmly. I summon in my name the spirit that wanders about the unfounded, the friendly shinobi that is a master of sealing techniques, the messenger that can form a contract with Tachibana Ray. For a few seconds nothing happened, and then the candle flames flickered. They grew hot for a bit before they expanded and a foot walked out of it. The person who walked out of the flames looked around the room in confusion before looking right at Tachibana. Are you responsible for this? How peculiar, what jutsu is this? I don't see your headband, but given how you look, the Fire Nation. Konoha. Only they'd be stupid enough to mess with the souls of the dead with that jutsu Tobirama made. But I remember destroying my body fully. How did you do this? Why are you in the Senju house? Are you a Senju? You don't look like one. Tachibana looked at the woman in front of him and gulped quietly. The hell, I thought it'd be just a random shinobi, maybe someone from Uzushiokure at most. Why did it come to be her? Mito-sama. You know me. Did my death turn me into a legend? I guess Hiruzen couldn't become popular even after I died, how silly. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanficaudiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.